Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
An amazing event happened on planet Earth in the beautiful city of Beijing, China. The cosmic ray technology was shown for the first time to the public by the financial arm of Keshe Foundation, the American Mark Ray Corporation, which is traded on the US stock exchange. Mr. Keshe himself went to China to show creation of materials from the magnetic fields by using obsolete technology, or what we call rotating gas reactors with electric motors. He's using these old reactors as a starting point for humanity to slowly accept the evolution in science and technology. For 3 days straight, the reactors were run and shown live on Zoom so that anybody from around the world who wanted to could come in and see. Black particles like dust start appearing on the white paper sheets around the reactors. These particles are being created through the reactors and the fields of the universe and the inertia of our planet. They are not coming from the room. There were 4 sets of pairs of reactors with red and green gases spinning in them. We were told they were not CH3 and CuO, but something else. They were set up in a star formation on tables inside the front windows of the Intercontinental Hotel. Anybody passed on the street could see them. White papers and spoons were spread around the reactors to catch the materials being formed from the fields. Some knowledge seekers were able to capture on video when black specks suddenly appeared on the paper, like out of thin air. It was very interesting to witness when energy first appears in the matter state. As time went on and the fields built up and changed strength, the specks formed into bigger pieces and some elongated, and some changed color into gold. This is the first time the public has been able to freely witness the creation of matter from energy. At the end of 3 days, Mr. Keshe collected more particles and showed everyone attending. An interesting thing occurred. When he touched the black dust on the paper with his finger, it turned gold. He said it interacted with the fields of the inertia of the earth through his finger. This phenomenon was written about in ancient times when the Greek god Midas touched things and it was said they turned to gold. What we witness here is how everything in the universe is created, from ourselves to the planets and even cancer.
And welcome each and all to the Keshe American Knowledge Team, otherwise known as the knowledge of the creation of the universe or the university of the universe, as we continue to get little bits and pieces added on to our knowledge to complete this whole process. And of course, Mr. Keshe, in this last workshop, went deeper into the connection with the soul of this planet, or the central energies of this planet, which myself I hadn't considered so much. I remember him teaching about the soul of this planet having a wrong streak in it, and I was thinking we are elevating the soul and we are trying to make connections with it in a way, but perhaps we need to go deeper in this connection of the emotion of this planet, or the central energies, with the emotion of the soul of the man, that will be able in a way to transmute across the planet. This is part of an ongoing process. But he said we needed to understand quite a bit of things, the man, the energies of the soul of the man itself, and try to connect all these things and to be able to do this transmutation or move across this planet. And I think that's where the game comes in. It's sort of giving you that illusion at this time, but he even mentioned about selling tickets in the future for transmission or transmutation to different places. And we're seeing a lot of beautiful things come forward in and around the Keshe Foundation, as what I just showed here, which he referenced again in the workshop, was this creation of materials out of fields. And of course, now we realize we don't have to steal from the planet. We don't have to steal from each other if we understand this energy dimension, where we can create things out of fields, from copper to gold to cotton to food, amino acids, and everything else we can think of, even the rain. So it's an amazing technology. But again, science and our current structure is getting adjusted to it slowly, gradually, but collectively, we're touching everyone with this knowledge. And again, so many beautiful things. He certainly spent some time on geopolitics, which seems to be on the headlines of every sort of outlet. But Mr. Keshe is watching it as well, and has been, in a way, trying to find solutions. We're not really cheering for one side or the other. It's the idea of peace being the winner in this whole process, and peace will be the winner, whether it comes this week, next week, or next century. But peace will be the winner, and this is the whole process of the Keshe Foundation, to bring this environment into a permanent peaceful condition, and ourselves as well. Maybe this is part of the key, but we've forgotten, in a way, this connection with the soul of the earth and its central energies. But we'll cover a little bit on how this planet does affect our emotions. Someone was mentioning just before we started about they're expecting a couple feet of snow. And that's certainly, if you have to dig yourself out from it, certainly creates a different emotion. So this planet has quite a bit of an influence, which I've always considered it just a rock, as they say, the third rock from the sun. Yes, it has a bit of soil on it and it grows a few things, but I never considered it an actual living entity. I always thought people that talked about Gaia or Mother Earth were rather far-fetched. But now we're realizing that this planet is a self-sustaining entity, and we can become a self-sustaining entity as well, as we start to move away from the killing and stealing of energies from others, and learning how to collect them through our hands and other methods from the universe or the environment, which, if they haven't been made into a structure or a soul, there's no problem. This is the way the Creator dines and feeds and the rest of this. And we're learning this, and this is part of entering into that space of the universal community. But before we go any further, of course, everyone has a mic. You're free to open your mic and share anything you want. But before we do that, let's just reconfirm our ethos, which is part of this World Peace Treaty. And of course, this is the Keshe World Peace Treaty, which you can find on most of the search engines. I gave it to one person the other day that just shook their head and gave it back. But anyway, this is part of the ethos of the Keshe Foundation. And of course, the more and more you apply this, finding peace within yourself first. This is the idea, and that process can take quite a while if we start to understand how we work. And of course, this idea of space. What triggered again for me was he said, we'll grow a kidney in space in the last workshop. And I was thinking, gee, are they going to go out and take a rocket and grow a kidney in space? But he's talking about growing the kidney in the space of your universe, and so on and so forth. So this is giving me a whole new understanding when he's sort of playing a little trick when he says go to space and the ethos and the rest. But I think the space is between the two ears. And of course, as we understand from one of the books, man exists and operates in the universe, and the universe exists and operates within the man. So if we can structure these emotions and be sort of a peaceful person, I think we can go much farther in this energy dimension. But there's still, as he said, there's something missing to do the full manifestation of the physicality, and this is what's getting, in a way, developed. That we will start to move across this planet and then probably across this solar system and then beyond. But we're just taking little baby steps, just understanding more about our own structure and how to trigger some of these things. And of course, getting some help from systems that are being provided by the Keshe Foundation. So I'll read the World Peace Treaty again. We're just reconfirming our ethos, especially when it says we'll not develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And again, I'm thinking that space is the space between your ears. This is where you have the Mayo of hydrogen interacting with the soul of the man. And this is why we sort of use the idea of the ethos of the three wise men in a way, the thinking, speaking, and acting good. This is the space. So would anyone like to read the World Peace Treaty? And again, I'm not 100% peaceful, I'm sure, but we're getting there. You don't have to be an angel to read this. Would anyone like to read the World Peace Treaty? Just wish to be more peaceful. And this is the whole idea of, I think, with anything. You want to do it, and then you figure out how it's done. But that creates the starting point. Okay, I'll read it if no one would like to read it. We, as citizens of the earth, from this moment on, accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. We shall never think about getting involved or incite war or develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And to this we all agree and swear with our, you can delete as appropriate, our nation, our territory, our council, our religion, our city, our town, our body, and our souls. Simply put your name and the rest of it, very simple, on behalf of the nation, the territory, the council, the religion, the city, the town, or as an individual. Remember, finding peace within yourself first and then the others. Have it witnessed, and of course, after signing this treaty, be proud to display this certificate wherever you consider being important to you, that everyone can see and know your ethos to fellow men and the mankind and other created beauties of the Creator. And again, do you have to display the certificate physically, or can you just display a proper emotion, a proper behavior, that you watch your words, even though you could say something that would perhaps create an imbalance in someone else? Maybe you withhold that. Again, this is what Alex has taught about, this loose harvesting. Sometimes that's quite an easy way for people to get a rise out of another person and sort of collect that energies. So this is all going on, as we know, with between the two ears in so many ways. Not all of it, but much of the thinking is going on here. So it's up to you to apply it, investigate it, and develop this. And it's not to make the others more peaceful in a way. It's to make yourself more peaceful and find out where the imbalance is. And maybe, again, as we learn from the teaching, the Creator is always learning to tame emotions. So it's not that the emotions don't come of hate or war or killing or other things, but learn to tame them rather than entertain them. Any comments on the World Peace Treaty? But we're getting closer and closer. We're in the final phases. But again, when you have a cycle that's very long, sometimes getting closer could mean centuries away. But it's a process that's ongoing, and you're all part of it. And we recognize that we're all carrying a small piece of this, but the idea of becoming peaceful, I think, will take you quite a long way. And that's one of the things we usually bring up here. As you start to sort of practice this, it creates certain hormones within your structure, and then you become proud of the work you're doing. Again, in the energy dimension, the person you are, and you're proud of the difference you're making. Again, not actually seeing it so many times in the physicality, but just realizing that you're making a big difference in the structure of this planet through the energy dimension rather than the matter state. Although the matter state is part of it as well, as we see creating the dome of peace with the Gans waters and as well as our souls. Did someone want to say something? I thought someone's mic.
Yes, Mark, it was me.
Please.
Last week, I tried to get a bunch of world peace treaties signed. I haven't pushed at it for quite a while because of I was in a community where I had, pushed as hard as I could, but I went to another community and I had people actually turn me down. They didn't want to sign the World Peace Treaty. And it's kind of interesting because in my area we have a lot of hunters, and so of course they're carrying guns and things like that. So it's hard for them to sign the World Peace Treaty. But I was in a city, and they were actually refusing to sign it. I did manage to get one, and in fact, the lady was so enthused that she came back to get several more copies so that she could give to other people. And this was a 2-day affair, and that was the only successful signator to the World Peace Treaty that I managed to get here in Canada. Just goes to show you the mindset up here.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere. But again, in the matter state, we're really not looking for that confirmation. Mr. Keshe has developed something that where he said we can create the emotion and transfer it into the physicality. So this is one of the new ideas of transmission, these fields of peace and calmness and enlightenment. And that enlightenment may cause a self-realization that maybe there's more to know about myself and the universe and the process of creation. This is what I'm thinking. So yes, this is the idea of raising the collective awareness that if more people start to participate in creating this dome of peace, once we reach a tipping point, we'll see it manifest. If they can give in that dimension of energy, we'll see it manifested. So this is the idea what Alex is doing, which is good, again, but I think the fields need to be sort of changed. That way, teaching one and trying to, it's going to be a very difficult process. Although it's nice to open up other people's to a new dimension and realizing what a powerful field generator they are, especially for themselves. Yes? Did someone want to say something about World Peace Treaty or anything else? Alex, did you conclude?
Oh yes, I was just very, very disappointed
I
because
know, we
it
know.
just came up to the point where either you agree to not get involved with war, to incite war, or you agree to incite war, and I just found that to be this was a very friendly environment that I was in, and I just kind of was very surprised to see the kind of lack of eagerness to, uh, shall we say, promote peace.
Yeah, well, even in within your own family or our own families, how we create tools of war. Maybe we're more favorable to one child than the other, or as Mr. Keshe said, we show love, we don't show love, we think we're gonna. So all of these things are going on in space, within our space, I think. And it may be not just the physical war we see, but also what's going on inside of the home structure in a way, how we can create tools of war right there by saying a good word or by being very critical of, a friend, an aunt, a sibling, a relative. This is where most of the war goes on in our thinking dimension because we think many, many, many more times than we actually act. I think.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Yeah,
So unfortunately, maybe they want to be overheard in public, what everyone else is saying, and this brings a lot of
Well,
people. Yes, go ahead.
well, Mark, if you if you go back to the games the kids are playing, they're allowed. There's no control from the parents. So to me, I remember when I was helped here by the National Peace Accord from Canada, the side of Canada, when I had my problems. And then I had to speak to someone again, I forget how many years later, and said, no, we don't do that anymore. Everything had changed. You don't get any more support, nothing. Coming from Canada, it was a shock for me. But I also know the kinds of games that I used to play when I was learning computers, even at university. They were simple and some were violent. But now it's inundated. It's becoming like inside of the kids and the people. It's horrible when you find that a 5-year-old father called our call center. My child is 5 and he's looking at porn on his phone. And, parents had to look at how to control that. So something has gone very wrong. Good in one sense with computers, but also a very bad side as well. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, I certainly would like my children to play the game of peace and enlightenment than a game of killing and destruction, especially if they were, let's say, beautiful people. In other words, with more than one soul in them. If that other soul comes out, even without the games, I'm sure, but that may provoke something. But yeah, that all came out of the military to desensitize the recruits to killing, and they weren't killing enough apparently, so we needed to, and this is how it got released. It started in the military complex and then was released to the public. And of course, this whole idea of killing is what Mr. Keshe is trying to move us away from. That if we get into this energy dimension, we don't have to steal and kill anything. And the creator, this is the way the creator operates. But again, it's so foreign to us. We're so much involved in the matter state. I could never believe that you could feed yourself without eating. I'm not doing it, but I've made a couple of small steps in that direction and realizing that it can be done as the fields are sort of getting adjusted on this planet in a way. And I'm sure if the fields were there, the soul will convert what it needs. It's already converting 80% of the energies it needs. If the energies were there, I'm sure it would take it to the next level. And this is part of the adjustment of the super fields that were, or the foundation in conjunction with a lot of other structures, let's say universal and on this planet, are putting into place. That the fields are, again, not going to be short here as they are right now, which causes this disease or this structure of killing and stealing, because you just can't find what we need to satisfy. And a lot of that will probably come through the emotions. And of course, as I said, they're developing something to even satisfy the emotions in this part of feeding with the energy dimension, where you can actually taste the apple in the energy dimension, as well as receive its energies without actually destroying the apple. And if we can start to master this, this is where the soul will live forever. Even though we've heard the soul is already immortal, but this is a practice we'll take into the space, let's say. And this is part of the reason we haven't been able to move, because we're not peaceful. The more you become peaceful, I think the more the knowledge comes, and so on and so forth, and the ability to do some of these things. But I've never, as I've read the holy books, I thought I had dominion over all the other creatures except another man. Not that I abused it, but that was the way I was thinking. And now even the planet, let's say, never thought taking the oil or other resources for, I thought it was there for us. But now we know it needs it for its own structure, and we don't have to operate that way. But as he said, we've lost a lot of connections. We've lost many of the things, and this is what's being restored through all these programs and structures and tests and so on that's happening in the workshops and in transmutation sessions. Okay, anything else from any? Maybe we'll listen to the announcements. They're very short, and we can also, he mentions the game and about selling tickets for transmutation and other things as part in the next few years of. I remember him talking about tourism in the past, and this will become one of the major growth or something industries, I think, on this planet and in space. But it won't be flying by an airplane. It's going to be through the transmutation. As he said, we need the computer to develop certain emotions that we can embed and hold within the man, and they can instantaneously, I think he said, transmute. But the AI, the programs have to be written. As he said, this is one of the reasons you knowledge seekers find it hard to manifest the physicality. So there's still a couple bits missing. Let's see if we can go. What we'll do is we'll start. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. So what I want to do is go to, let's see, I thought I had some timestamps marked somewhere here. Oh, how about 57? Let's see if we can go. We'll play the Keshe coin, which Rick played. Let's see if we can just get to that part. And this is, again, part of the whole structure of the gameplay, the Keshe coin, the cosmic ray materials. You can see some of that in the Keshe Foundation store here, which we could review. But let's hear the announcements, about 4 minutes. But when he gets to the part about the transmutation tickets within the gameplay, I think this is what he was referring to. We'll stop it and just go to the game for a moment and show everyone. And we'll put the links in afterwards. Any comments, anyone? And please feel free. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm here.
Shortly.
And of course, this is the virtual Keshe coin in a way, and you can write to info@Keshe Foundation, and they will direct you on how to purchase a Keshe coin. Again, this is an internal coin to the Keshe Foundation until it's accepted in the larger structure. It does earn 3% per year. You can spend it on any products you find in the Keshe Foundation store, and that store is about to disappear and appear on Shopify, as I understand it. But this is all part of the structure. This is €1,000 per coin. It's connected with the cosmic ray material, which is also €1,000 per item of cosmic ray ball. And this is also connected to the Mark Ray Corporation stock. And again, all connected to the game. It's combinations of many things within the Keshe Foundation. But just showing you this Keshe coin. And what it will be in the future, it'll be accepted by probably the world structure. But in the meantime, it's an internal coin. So it's not a crypto that you can use somewhere else, but you can use it and trade within the Keshe Foundation. And of course, within the association that's being set up by the Keshe Foundation, if you just type in keshefoundation.at, Austria, you can actually go there and become part of the Keshe Foundation association, what they call it, which gives us all different privileges or other privileges that the general population, because you're in an association, isn't granted. So this is part of this whole structure of the Keshe coin. But let's go to the announcements. Anyone want to make a comment? So you can see slowly, step by step, he's putting an entire structure. And again, when he gets to the part about the tickets in the game, we'll just go and show the game of peace and enlightenment. We'll put some of these things in the chat if we remember as well. Another offer from the store.
Water is the foundation of our life. It is part of every living creature. Pure water gives you the energy of nature. Now you can have this energy in your home. The Keshe Foundation Alkalizer and Energizer is designed for your daily well-being. It increases the pH of the water so your body can absorb more oxygen and stay in its natural condition during the day. Keshe Foundation Alkalizer and Energizer. Be pure like the water.
And of course, right now in the Keshe Foundation store, you can see probably 100 to 200 different products. He said this will be, in the next period of time, will be starting to go into the thousands of products, all certified by the Keshe Foundation. So it's a nice little store to explore and just imagine what some of these different items can do. And it's probably, you'll see many of the things you've never thought about, and how fields can bring peace and balance into the home. There's actually little resin items and other things. But let's continue on with our workshop. And of course, feel free to say whatever you'd like about all of this. We'll just wait for a second. Rick is adjusting something in the background, so it'll come in a moment. The announcements are only a few minutes long. As I said, we're going to flip over to the game.
Are you okay?
Peace and enlightenment shortly.
Sorry, I had my microphone turned off there, Mr. Keshe. Welcome back to our second part, everyone, and we'll have an opportunity to ask questions here in a couple of minutes. Mr. Keshe will have a few things to say first, and we do have a hand up here and some questions in the Q&A ready to go. So please go ahead, Mr. Keshe. Hello? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
Yes.
now. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you very much. There's a few announcements we have to make. For those of you who signed up for the 3 sessions, the March session is delayed to April. It's already, you receive a note for it. We want to test something new.
Okay, so what is he talking about for those who signed up for the 3 sessions? Okay, if we go back to the store, and I think most of us already sort of know this, I don't know if these will continue. They probably will, but this is, let's just bring up all products. This is part of keeping the Keshe Foundation's development free. These are called cosmic ray transmission sessions. You can sign up here plus the value added tax. And the 3rd session, there usually will be April 17th. So there'll be no session in March, but this keeps the Keshe Foundation free to develop for humanity. You may not want to attend them yourself, but you can always buy a ticket for someone else to attend, and I'm sure they'll link up with the other person. But this is the way, by our support, it's not so much what we get out of these sessions. In a way, we do get something, but it's about the development of the technology that it can reach humanity in a much bigger way, and not just a few individuals that, or tens of individuals that may be in these sessions. So thank you all for those who participated in helping the foundation, and again, gifting it in a way, allowing yourself to be studied and gifting it back to humanity.
As you know, we just don't do because we say so. We are setting up new structures, and it has to be, once we understand, to be transferred to the transmission we like to do. On the other hand, what we call the resin packages, I was told to announce that they now has been made back to the 250, 500 and 1,000 euro packs for Easter.
Okay, maybe we can take a look at that as well. We go again back to the Keshe Foundation store. We look at some of these resin, and of course, right now the store is a little awkward. These messages come up, you have to cancel them. But if we're on all products, we can go down and we can find these. He said he mixed these. This is another one of those, the chess game. These are some of the cosmic plasma, or what we call the resin sort of things, but there's some things being made. Here's some of these resin products which you can put around the home, and they will spread peace and balance. He said we need to bring balance before the peace. The items are mixed up, but they're again connected across the planet. He even said that about the soap offers in the store, that they mix the lots together, and that these soaps, as people use them, would actually make a connection between them as they mix the lots together. And someone got a lot in the United States and another one got one in China. It'll actually make a plasmatic connection. But these are some of the amazing resin products. And again, if you wonder if the home is unpeaceful, how much is peace and balance worth within the structure of the home? And you can just sort of innocuously put these about and see what sort of transpires within your environment. But it's probably more effective than going to a counseling session if you're having issues with marriage and other things, or children acting out and you're taking them to certain people or getting them on certain tablets. This may be a way to try to bring peace and balance into the structure before you go further down the road into the conventional. Okay. So that's the Keshe Foundation store, which will also include in the chat later.
There's still time to order for the shipment. What we call looking for qualified people in the scientific world. Many of you have written to us. We know your background does not fit into what we want. But if you have connection with anybody in any dimension of the scientific world, we're still looking for experts.
And again, as Mr. Keshe said, you could be retired, not in the field anymore, but maybe you were an expert in your field. You feel kind of sad that you can't share your knowledge after 20 or 40 years in a certain position. Write to the Keshe Foundation and see if your background fits into what they're looking for. And of course, don't be disappointed if it's not, because many have written and some of the backgrounds don't apply. I know he's not looking for really enthusiastic knowledge seekers, as he mentioned, but if you're an expert in a field, and it doesn't matter what field, there could be a fit for you within the Keshe Foundation structure. So don't let your knowledge go untapped in a way. In the, let's say, the twilight years of your life, feel free that you can write in info@keshe.foundation and see maybe there's a fit there.
We're not looking for knowledge, because what just happened to be in the structure of the work of the Keshe Foundation and the very advanced research. Info@Keshe Foundation is your point, and At the same time, please remember that next week's teaching is to 6 o'clock in the evening, Central European time, not the 9 o'clock in the morning. And we try to, at the same time as we promised, by 21st of March, bring into operation the game to its normal level.
Okay, so he's talking about the game, and what does science have to do with a game? I don't know any scientists playing a game. Anyone have a connection between the science and a game? They're going to introduce a game now? Oh, we all know what that game is. It's the game of peace and enlightenment. This is what we're playing, where you teach yourself to become peaceful by playing this game. This is the actual game. And why don't I do this right now, where you can sign up. And again, you can actually earn something by playing this game. Don't play it for money. I would play it, as he said, when he mentioned the compression about understanding the soul of, or understanding the man, the soul of the man, the soul of the planet Earth. This is, and sort of measures of it in a way, or strengths of it. This is part of the compression technology, which he mentioned a while ago when we were talking about the wave and the frequency and the particle and so on. But he said this knowledge of the compression technology will be embedded in the gameplay. Again, and I used this example before, where Mr. Keshe said that the people who use copper utensils, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they actually contributed to their own well-being and their own health. And he said it's the same with the ethos, this idea of the gift of the three wise men, the thinking, speaking, and acting. He said, as you play the game, the ethos sinks in. So again, knowingly or unknowingly, some of these processes are taking place within this gameplay. And of course, we did show you the Keshe coin, and the Keshe coin will become the effort of the man in the future, that by accumulating these coins, you will actually be able to perhaps even travel, as he said. If I bring this up again and we'll just play it, let's see, he said about the selling tickets to move back and forth. And so what's happening right now is you just travel collecting resources. There's a lot more to it, but moving around this planet where you become quite comfortable and familiar with different countries like China or Russia or Saudi Arabia or Libya or the United States or Canada or Brazil. You start to become, and of course a little wiki blurb pops up where you can read a few sentences or you could read a few pages. And this, in a way, is getting you familiar for future play, where perhaps that's what some of these secret roles are for here. This is for advanced gameplay in the future. I don't know if that'll be part of it. But as you earn these Keshe coins in this game, hopefully it'll come out on the 21st if they've ironed out all the sort of birthing pains. We'll see it come out, and then we can start to introduce the energy dimension to this game, where you could perhaps receive some fields for feeding or wellness or other things, and down the road it may lead to the transmission and transmutation. Again, wearing these headphones and connecting to certain emotions, or perhaps you just want to feel more loving and more calm in a way. So this is part of this whole process. So this is the Peace and Enlightenment game. We've put getplasma.org where you can sign up and register, and then we've also put the Keshe Foundation, which is part of this. And of course, you'll need a wallet, which is in the store, which you'll find for, I think, €99 plus the value-added tax, where you actually store your resources or Keshe coins and other things that you will play. So this is the game. Any comments on the game? So ethos embedded, the idea of thinking, speaking, and acting good, and the compression technology, he openly stated both would be embedded, or as you play the game, this knowledge or this ethos starts to sink in. Again, how long it will take for that sinking process to happen, we don't know. Any
Question.
Yes.
Is there an easy way to know what country you've been in other than scroll all over the place?
Well, you go to your inventory on this side, there's a number of different items. We call it an inventory here.
I know. Is it possible to use a second computer, just stay on inventory so I don't have to constantly
Oh, yeah,
look
I
around?
think you could. Yeah, there's no problem. You can actually, at first you couldn't log in on two systems, but that was remedied quite quickly. So you can be on two systems and bring the screen up on the other one and see if
And
it registers. I'm not sure.
And the other question I have, like, when it says after travel and learn, it gives so many seconds. Can you click on stuff before that? I have the feeling that you can. And somewhere it said you could only collect 2 color items, and it looks like there's more of them, at least more of them give this tra sound.
As soon as you arrive, you can collect the resources if you choose to.
Yeah,
As
but
yeah.
can you collect more than 2?
Oh, for sure. I've gotten 5 treasure chests out of one country. I couldn't believe it. They just keep coming. You only think there's 1 there. Sometimes there's 2, 3, 4.
And somewhere in the rules it said you could only collect 2 color things.
Okay.
So I was confused about it.
You mean like yellow or green? If you look here in your inventory, you can see that the large energy drinks, books of wisdom, books of meditation, all the large ones are green. The medium ones are yellow. So you're saying you could only collect 2 kind of colors here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking, because at first, after I had collected 2, I stopped.
Oh.
Then I realized I was wasting my travel time and my travel resources.
It does teach you how to think and create. No, I try to collect all the resources until I see the wiki page pop up. And then you can explore the wiki page or you can close the wiki page.
Okay.
To learn about the country, if you like. I did that a couple times through the first 195 visits or the second.
And then is there an easy way, like some of the countries, they have a wide outline and some of them have a narrow outline, some of them have no outline, some of them are filled in with color. Do all these things have a particular meaning?
I think there's some hidden things, as I said, what Irma is saying. If you look above Canada right now, it's yellow. If I hover above Canada or I click on it, let's see if it'll go to, recently it was changing to a green. Now today it's, or a bluish. I'm not seeing that happening right now. I don't know why, but it was highlighting in blue.
Yeah. Well, with me, it's green.
With me,
first I thought if there was a very, very light outline, it had not been visited. And then there was a wider outline that maybe meant that it was twice, or when it was filled in with a color, it meant something.
That's interesting because the last few days, whenever I checked this, this was highlighting in blue. So was in Brazil. Oh, there's Brazil in blue. So I think these colors have a subliminal effect. Maybe not. But again, he mentioned about green. He mentioned about walking in the forest and how you feel good. And you can see how many different shades of green are in this map of the world. And the green creates some sort of emotion. Remember what he said about colors? That's why McDonald's uses the yellow and the red and the orange, because it excites your palate in a way. So colors actually, and I think this has got something to do with the teaching of the frequency, the stained glass, and the bells.
Yeah, and Coca-Cola connects with the Santa Claus.
How so?
Red and white.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, there's many, many things. So I think, again, this is one of the reasons why he wants to keep you in the game, and you have to make so many visits to each country, because this keeps you, whether you're there for a minute and you just launch and then close it, come back in a few minutes, but it keeps you in and around this field of whatever's embedded hidden technologies within this game to bring peace and enlightenment. So just by playing it, just the same way he said that people stored their water in copper urns or used copper utensils with or without knowing they were actually helping themselves. Go ahead. Someone wanted to say something? So this is how you teach yourself in a way to become peaceful. And as they introduce the energy dimension, I think the results will be even more profound for us. I mean, for those who entertain the game, not everybody is entertaining the game, and that's perfectly fine. You choose. You're the captain of your own ship. But this was the biggest gift Mr. Keshe said he could give to humanity. So I don't think we fully opened up the toy and played with it yet, but there'll be more features added to it, so maybe it'll get more exciting in the future. Any other comments, thoughts, questions? Okay, let's finish this.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
And that's above the
Oops, let me bring it.
Resources, those blue things. There's an area that gives 3 numbers. It's gelernt. I don't know if that's a German word, and then cap. Oh, that must be German. But what does that refer to?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
See all those things with the energy drinks, and it's just immediately above them.
See all the things. You mean in the inventory?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 3 numbers.
Yeah.
One of them is gelernt. Is that German or in English for you?
Do we have any German speakers here?
Yeah, well, I see it is in German, if that's what it is. But what is it for you?
Gelernt. Gelernt.
Yeah. What does that refer to? I mean, I don't know what the word means, but what does the number refer to?
I'm not sure. This is 195 countries. I know that's how many are right now. We have 195 countries. So I would think that represents countries. Is you know a little bit of German or a lot of German.
Yeah, I do, but I don't know what's meant here. What do these 3 categories refer to, or how are they changed?
Let me jump in, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the 195 is the number of countries.
Well,
and
I don't have 195. In that, I have 3 categories there. It's gelernt, KAKT erreicht, and total tokens.
Right.
How do they change?
Okay,
what do they
the
refer to?
The
I don't have a
195.
195. I have 158 and 64 and 222.
Okay. So
So
the key point is that there's 195 countries, and you have to visit all 195 to achieve a cap.
Twice.
No. A cap is once.
Okay.
And then in order to achieve a level, you have to have 2 caps, which means you have to go to 195 countries twice. And from there, it doubles. So the next level would be 4 caps. The next level would be 8 caps. The next level would be 16 caps. And it goes on 9 levels. And Mark is going to post the chart here. So you take 195 countries, and level 1, 2 caps per country means the maximum number of tokens that you can get is 2 times 195 is 390. And that translates into 39 euros. That 39 euros becomes your monthly pension. To get to the next level, you have to go to all 195 countries another 2 times, and your pension doubles. It becomes 78 euros. As you can see, it gets harder and harder. So if you can travel 100 times a day, and there's 195 countries, if you were to be very economical, you would be able to complete one cap every 2 days. So for instance, if you wanted to get to level 5, that's 66,240 tokens.
Yeah, I'm
Which,
just on level 1, so all that is sort of way out of my
well, no, it's not.
capacity to think.
It's just for you to understand that when you take a look at that number and you say, how long would it take for me to get 6,240 tokens? It would take you, divided by 100, it would take you 62 days if you were economical.
Right.
Now, when I look to choose the next place to travel to, I go to where I have already been to see if I have 1 or 2 visits there or things there. Or
Okay,
do I
this is a
just
good
go
point.
any place?
This is a good point. So, what I'm doing personally is I have created a bingo card. I take the countries. Mark, can you bring up the inventory of the countries, please? Yeah, so what I do is I take a screenshot of this and I post it into another software, and then I just kind of tick each country with my own thing. If you ever gone to bingo,
Yeah.
you look at like a bingo card, and when you say, oh, I-24, then you just take a dabber and you dab that. So on your computer screen, you can dab that, and or you can print it out, and you can literally get a bingo marker and dab that. And say, oh, well, I need 2 caps per level. So, one dab would be in green and the second dab would be in red. And so you know how to get it evenly across the board.
That certainly would save me a lot of time.
Oh, it is. This game is a combination of casino, bingo, and education.
Well,
So,
I'm only familiar with education. I'm not familiar with either of the other 2.
well, that's because you are a mature adult and you're not a gamer wasting your time 20 hours a day munching soda pop and pizza and, playing war games
So I
where,
need to catch up on that education. Do I?
no, what's interesting is in the process of going to these countries, we are drawing right now on Wiki to get the information on that country.
Mhm.
And Wiki itself is, deficient in so many ways, but it's very helpful for the purposes of this game.
Okay, I guess I'm going to print myself a bingo card. I have not been to bingo.
Yeah, another thing you could do when you printed it out, you also, what I did, I put all the list of the countries on that inventory into an AI and asked it to classify that in continents. So it will show you all the countries on which continents. So when you're on that map, you know the region, you know where the countries are. Because sometimes there's no treasure in the country or it doesn't pop out. You still can figure out, okay, these countries are in this continent, and then you're able to know the specific locations.
Right.
Sure, that becomes very important. If you need that country to complete your cap,
Correct.
and it doesn't have an item in there, you can go to info and click on that country, or you can just put your cursor on that country and double click, and it will take you there. You don't have to have a prize there to register it for your caps. This becomes very, very important if you're on a deadline, as say at the end of the series, and you need to complete your cap. You don't want to waste your moves. Getting your caps completed and complete your level, it doubles it doubles your income, and it may not be significant now, but think about it. If you're going to go to an income where you're maybe generating $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and you know that it's going to take you maybe 3 months to get there,
So Mr. Keshe is going to succeed in making a gambler out of me?
This isn't a gamble. This is a lead pipe cinch.
This is a sure thing.
This
One of
is
the
it.
anomalies for me, Alex, is I'm on level 5, which they just bumped me up from level 1 to test it or something. And as you said, 62.40 for the visits, and you'll earn a half a cash coin.
Yeah, you'll get 624 euros.
No, you get 0.6 cash coin. Half.
Times 6,240.
No, these are the tokens. This is how much cash coin you'd earn, if I'm understanding it correctly. So to visit 6,200, 6,240 places, as you said, with 100 visits a day, divide that by 100 and you will have 62 days. So how could you earn 2 cash coins per month if after those 62 days you earn 0.6 cash coin?
Because a cash coin is 1,000 euros.
Okay, so you earn 0.6 of it, 600 euro.
624 euros, that's correct.
Okay. So that would take me 62 days to do that at 100 visits per day. So how would you earn 2 cash coins a month? He said you could earn up to 2 cash coins a month.
That's the maximum.
If
So
That's like if you do more than 100 trips, you can get that.
right,
you can't do more than 100
yeah,
trips.
at this point, unless they change how many visits you can get per day.
Yeah, it has to be changed. That's the only way you can get 2,000.
No, but if you look at 7, level 7 is 2,496 euros. Okay, so you're 496 euros over the limit. That will be carried forward to the next month.
Again, 128, right? If we
Yeah.
take 128, let me just do it on the little calculator here. If I can get the sunlight in there, it's all cloudy. It's not just doing it. Let's just see here. That's better. 195 countries times 128 visits equals 24,960 divided by 100 visits. That
That's
would take
200.
you almost a year,
Right.
249 days
Mm-hmm.
to get 2 cash coin at this level of operation. So there's going to be something changed within the game. Otherwise, unless there's a different way to earn the cash coins.
No, this is one of the 3 ways. You have 3 ways to earn it. There's a weekly prize, and then there's your travel prize.
Okay.
So altogether, that's how much you can earn. But the thing is that the foundation is only paying out 2 cash coins a month.
Okay.
That's the limit.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear how it works in the future. But this game that we're talking about here is just not a game. It's a game of peace and enlightenment. But you can earn the 2 cash coins a month, but we're going to have to see what sort of changes are going to come into this game to allow that to materialize. I'm not sure.
Well, there's another thing. First of all, on your board, you have 19 players.
Yep.
On my board, we have almost 600. But what you have to imagine, can you imagine this board with 100 times as many players? So instead of 600, say 60,000.
Well, as he said, this game is not just a game. This is where 1 billion people on this planet will start to bring themselves out of poverty by playing this game, as they can order by accumulating cash coins. They will be able to order things in the energy dimension, and this is how they bring themselves out of poverty.
That's right.
This is part of
While we're on the game, let's talk about that fields, the impact of fields while playing the game. To me, it's kind of like a visual world. But since we are much more advanced, and the foundation is much more advanced in terms of field technology, how is it impact? How would that be impactful to our daily living Anybody have an idea to what type of impact we will be receiving while we're playing the game?
Well, there's two ways to move ahead, Ike. One is to stop doing the things that cause the problem, and one is to do things that solve the problem. So if we can get this generation to stop playing those war games where, you are rewarded with the number of people that you kill, and then when you get killed, oh, well, you just reset it and you start playing again, oh, so sad, I got killed. Darn, I lost all those points. So then you have to start all over again. That's not the way life works.
Right.
So, this is where we're living in a fantasy world where we think that war games and killing is a game. It's fun and games. And, when you go to Best Buy and they come out with a new version of the game and you have a lineup right around the block and each kid is wanting to pay $450 out of their out of their allowance, to buy this game so they can get back and have the superior equipment so they can kill more. We don't do killing here. You learn the names of the countries, you learn about their geography, and the one thing that you're definitely going to learn is how small this planet is. I mean, it's you can travel the whole planet here, with on your computer and learn all about the countries. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when I was in public school. I got a project to map out South America. Well, that was when I was in grade 3. And so of all the continents, I know more about South America than I do about North America. And how many people know what is what are all the states of the United States, and how many people know what the capitals are? I mean, this is stuff they should teach in school, and they don't. Okay. And what about math? They don't teach that either. So, people cannot add without a calculator. So there are, basic functions that are used in this game. And so we stop the killing and start the education. And as people start to find out, that there is another world out there, and
So
where that world is,
that's some incentive that can compel folks to stop that competition or competitive way of playing games and do collaborative way and then earn money to it. But then how do you explain to someone that by playing a game, there's some fields embedded? That type of sensitization that we need to be able to explain. Because as knowledge seekers, you and I know, there's all embedded fields. And plasma technology is much more about energy, not in physical dimension. So if energy involves mostly fields and fields interaction, so by we interacting in the game, we're actually interacting with those fields that are embedded, and those fields then change our emotions to where our habits will eventually change. So I can see how that process would then transform that warring attitude or that fighting attitude or competition or competitive attitude in terms of regular games that we used to where we become more calmer or more collaborative and then be more peaceful. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, and then the parent can very easily say, well, tomorrow we're just going to have a little game at breakfast, and I'm going to name off 5 countries. Can you name off 5 capitals? And challenge the kids. It's a game. Make learning fun. It was fun when I was in school. And I was eager to learn, but we really don't know much about what's going on all around the world. And as you can see, we are tending to be warmongers. So we got to stop that. And it has to be done gradually and gracefully. And this is one of the ways to do that. And as you said, Ike, it brings it on. You made a great comment. So thanks all. And let's, save our current generation. We need them. We're losing them.
And of course, Ike, maybe you want to carry a couple magnets in your pocket when you say they say, well, we don't, what do you mean fields? And you pull out the magnet and you have them feel in the matter state the idea of fields, magnetical and gravitational. That'll give them in a way. But he's also tuning the brain, as he said, that we change the whole environment. You go into the room, it's like psychedelic drugs, but this is the energy of love, the energy of giving. And then our brain gets tuned into it and we behave that way. We'll listen to more. But they're tuning you. That's why he said, by playing the game, you teach yourself to be peaceful. By playing the game, the ethos of the foundation or the ethos of Mitra sinks in. The idea of thinking, speaking, and acting. And again, you may not be an angel overnight, but it's a process that's happening. So they're
Okay, may I ask?
Yeah.
May I add one more thing? It's very important. The kids thrive on clicking. Okay, so they need faster equipment. They need faster refresh rates with their monitors. I mean, that's why they sell the $1,000 monitors, because they have an extremely fast refresh rate to keep up with the graphics. But you don't really need that. You don't need a $1,000 monitor to watch this Zoom program. Now, the other thing is, so the seniors can't compete with that, and so there's no reason to get into a thumb exercise where you're clicking the mouse 1,000 times a minute. The second thing is, on that same point, and so I'm alluding to seniors, the pension is really disgusting. In Canada anyway, it's an embarrassment, and it's hard to make ends meet. For seniors, they have extra time. They are sometimes shut in, and this is an excellent way for them to earn more money as well. So you have the youth, gives them an opportunity to earn money, gives the seniors an opportunity to make more money. This can make and change the quality of life for people all around. Thank you.
Very good, and especially when you can perhaps order your energy. Once the cosmic ray antenna is introduced, you'll probably be able to order some power for lighting and energy. And again, you'll have to pay the Keshe Foundation, but it will be nowhere near what you pay. It might even be in the penny area as opposed to what you're paying now, and that would apply to the food and the travel and the rest of this. This is all what's coming down the road. Again, it's beyond the imagination. Even the products, he said, that will be in the store in the future, these thousands of products over the next period, some of them will be beyond they already are in a way, but some of them will be beyond even our imagination. Okay, so let's continue in this workshop. We're just into the announcements.
As our structure is set up to, that it'll be announced hopefully in the future, as there is a discussion going in the back that with the coins you can buy flight sessions and other things. In a way, we accept your coins for certain services of the Keshe Foundation initially to start with, which gives you a lot of leverage and other things. This will can in the future include the flight systems and transportation and transmutation and the rest of it, which means when you play the game and then you with it can buy what I call transmutation tickets and whatever else. It might be as part of the Keshe Foundation work. There is a lot of things in the pipeline, and as usual, when we get to it, when it's completed, we'll in a way divulge to you that what we're going and what needs to be done. But the structure of the knowledge has to be opened up. And in the coming time, we are on the verge of massive changes inside the Keshe Foundation, thanks to the support of knowledge seekers. I mentioned a new, what we call structure of the Keshe Foundation will emerge in 26-27. That, as usual, we keep everything till is and what it is, and as much as is needed is released and brought to your attention, or you'll see it as what we call as part of the structure of the work of the Keshe Foundation. If there are any questions we can answer, let me know and we try to answer.
Okay, any questions? Again, it was a very short, but you can see many things are centering around this peace and enlightenment game. This will be our marketplace, our power station, our travel agent, our supermarket in the future. But right now, it's just a virtual sort of thing. But this is the freedom of the man under the cover of the game. And as he said in the past, once we learn the transmutation, if your government is not treating the nationals correctly, people can move to a different map location. And perhaps this game it's too not good here. They're living so well, but the rest of the population. So we're going to change our map location to another place on this planet where it might be more conducive for us to live, or conditions are better there. So this is what we might see in the future. Hopefully people don't have to move. I don't think they really want to move, but it's also nice to explore other areas, but then coming back to your where you feel more comfortable in a way. But as we start to do this transmutation, as he said, if we can interact with the soul of the planet of the earth, we can then move or transmute to Africa or China with a different structure. So this is so you'll be, and again, maybe you will return home, but while you're on that transmutation, you're going to appear or actually manifest as a Chinese or as an African or something that perhaps you're not used to. And this will take a bit of doing to get through it. Could this be real? Did I just imagine all this happening? Again, I had seen this in the beginning as you start out with the dream part of it, or the daydream. Maybe they'll allow that. And then perhaps you can even walk out of that dream into the sidewalk of the capital of that city for a minute in the beginning, or maybe 2 minutes or 5, and the rest of it. And then, of course, as we know, we can get pulled back to our location, no problem. And then this will extend into the universe. Again, this sounds far-fetched to those connected to the matter state, but those who've started to open up this mystery of our entity to its energies, this is quite natural. It's nothing that's so profound, but we've just never heard it put this way. And this is part of the freedom of the man, to open him up to the energy dimension. And I'm struggling with it just like everyone else. But he's making it a little bit easier. As I said, the compression technology that he mentioned in this workshop will be embedded within, he's mentioned this before, but many things are embedded into this gameplay. The compression technology and the ethos. And as he said, more important than understanding the technology is to understand the ethos. The speaking, thinking, and acting good. And then it'll make it easier. Of course, he may add something else in the future. So where shall we go from here? We could listen to part of the teaching. We're going to create the Dome of Peace. Alex, you're on schedule for in a short time for a presentation? Or are you still frosting the cake, as they say? Okay. Well, fear, he said, is one of the biggest obstacles of all of us, is this idea of fear. Maybe we can cover that during the Dome of Peace, that we don't really lose anything. He talked about the gloves, but I thought it was a glove, a wearable technology, but then he said it's not necessarily a glove. It's actually creating an environment that you would sort of walk into. Okay, Alex is set, so maybe we'll just cover this, or we could take it. There was a couple of good questions about the weather, and maybe that's where we should go. As he said, the weather, the emotions of this planet affect our emotions. Alex just mentioned about a major dumping of snow in his area, 2 feet. So that will affect your emotions. So the weather, the planet has emotions, the clouds, the storms, and the rest of this. This is something we've never really sort of acknowledged. I mean, we do in a way, but we can now decide, he said, those emotions or that weather does not have to control us. We can decide how we interact with it. So perhaps that's a good question to go to. I think that's at 1:31. So let me move the video somewhere around 1:31. Thanks again for the beautiful transcript. It facilitates the whole work here in a way. Yeah, maybe I'll start it a little early. I don't know if I'm in the right spot. Okay, 1:31. Let's just hear about how this planet, and of course he said it affects the birth, the length of our life, our emotion, our color, our shape, our structure. So much of this we just thought we kind of plopped here. We didn't realize that it has such a strong connection with us, and we need this connection to be able to do transmutation. How come I didn't think of that? That's what I'm wondering. I had to wait till Mr. Keshe sort of opened it up. But let's see here. Hopefully we're starting properly here. And again, in about 15 minutes, we're going to go to the Dome of Peace.
Thank you. We have a couple of hands up here, but before we get there, let's address one question from their Q&A from Guillaume, who says, hello, Rick. Hello, Mr. Keshe. About free will in respect of your teachings this morning, what depends on the human being if everything is from the soul of the planet?
Repeat, please.
About free will in respect to your teachings this morning, what is, I think, dependent on the human being if everything is from the soul of the planet?
Everything is not from the solar planet. We receive fields from it. It's us who decides how to react to it. It's another source of supply.
And you know, that's what they say, you know, when it's cloudy in the winter, and I guess this is a known fact, the vitamin D isn't there, people don't get the sunshine, they're more depressed in a way. But he said we can decide how we interact with these changing conditions or so on. Again, I mean, if you're being flooded out or, you know, a hurricane, that's something probably different. That's a dangerous situation. But in general, the clouds or the sun or the rest, we can decide what we want to create with our own structure based on the emotions that the planet puts out. We don't have to just, if it's cloudy, we're cloudy. If it's sunny, we're sunny. I think this is what he's trying to say. It's how we choose to interact. We can control those interactions. But a lot of people say, oh, everybody's down, it's cloudy, it's raining, I can't go anywhere, you know, I'm down because of the rain. No, we have to look at it slightly differently, or maybe bigly differently.
Yeah, and Mark,
Or
in
the source.
Canada,
Oh,
I
go
used to
ahead.
be, I was very excited. I would be excited if there was snow because I love cross-country skiing. Not the downhill, cross-country. It's the most beautiful, incredible, anything that you could ever imagine. It's like fairyland.
Yes, yes.
Beautiful. So there you go. Alex should be happy with he can use his snowshoes. Thanks.
You'll have to get one of those dragons or whatever, where they put a couple boilers on a flatbed and you just put the snow in the boiler and it heats it up on top and it sort of melts it, and you run a hose down the. This is what they do at some of the larger parking lots in airports. I know Canada had some interesting designs for that. Snow dragon, I think they called it. Much easier than if there's no room for the snow, you can actually melt it. I've seen those a few years ago, but they were quite expensive. Just another way. But we have to realize that we can actually, the environment doesn't necessarily dictate. We dictate within ourselves.
Of interaction. When the magnetic field of the Earth as a matter state interacts with the magnetic field of the sun, creates the light. And then that light decides if it's dark, start of the day, full day, and the after. And that light dictates the condition that this planet reacts. Clouds, rain, storms. Clouds and storms and everything else is not created just because the Earth does it, whatever.
So we're thinking about the emotions of this planet or the weather, it's affecting us, but it's the same that the Earth is getting these signals from the sun. So you could see it's reacting to its magnetic field, its interaction with the sun. So it's the same process in a way. Sun interacting with the Earth, then the Earth makes an interaction or creates a weather or an emotion, interacts with us. It's the same sort of process. And of course, the sun is interacting with its central star as well. So we can see all these sort of, in a way, vague connections, which we thought were vague, but are really very solid.
The interaction of the field of the Earth with the sun is the same with our soul. A field strength from the Earth interacts with our soul. It creates this manifestation of existence. It creates clouds, it creates storms, it creates emotions. We just look at the physical dimension, but if you take a magnet, a big magnet, and then you put little magnet, tiny ones, the dust of a magnet and the metal, they all interact with it. It's not just the big one. It's the same with the fields, which are at the strength of the soul of the man, interact with the field strength of the soul of the planet. It still creates its storms, it still creates its emotion. Is our comprehension of the reality, is our intellect, which bars us, blocks us to understand the similarity and confirmation of both. It's us which we see, oh, today is a sunny and now it's a rain, and then there is a storm. Where did the rain come from? Where did the storm come from? Isn't it because of the day when it was warm, water evaporated and it created the dimension of the motion and then goes on? The cause of our planetary, all the havoc with our weather comes from the magnetic field interaction of the sun with Earth in a physical dimension. Temperature, high, heat, day and night. How come we can't think, we can't even understand? It just doesn't create the fields that interacts only with the atmosphere of the Earth. It creates fields which interacts with the soul of the man. What a storm does it create? Why Africans are placid, Americans are aggressive, the Chinese are a different way. We receive different fields from it, and we interact with it. And if you understand this, then we understand the interaction of the storms which created by the interaction of the field of the Earth with our soul, what condition it creates that we become disturbed people in interaction in the area we are, in community we are. why we are certain way for certain races. And then we talk about man's soul dictates man's physicality. So the condition of the interaction of the fields with the inertial material, which is in that environment, in interaction with the soul of the man, creates man. The food we eat, the altitude we live in, the condition we have accepted, then we understand we ignored the interaction of the soul of the planet with us, because in fact our races, our colors, our languages, our food is all dictated by it. Our features are dictated by it. But we ignore it. We just say, oh, there's a stormy weather, today is a date tonight. The day is a date. With you, light in the sky is the same. The interaction of the same fields with your soul. It's the light in your soul. Because now your soul as a plasma interacts with that sun directly. If it's a daylight, it's a daylight. How do you feel it? Why do we feel good in the summer and in the warmth? It just doesn't warm our body. The field of the sun touches our soul. And we always ignore that. And then we look at the structure. If man understands this, 90% of the cancers are curable, but we don't understand it. So we find a solution in chemicals for it, or we pay money to the church to save that guy's life because he had a cancer. What's the interaction of the field of the earth with it and how it happened with this? Creation is very complicated. We just see what this suits us in the physical dimension.
Okay, so again, something for you to contemplate about how our emotion changes sometimes based on the weather and the environment or the emotions that the soul of this planet is putting out. It's just another opening up. He said this was another key of starting to become aware of the soul of this planet and its interaction with our ability, obviously our emotions, but also our ability to move and transmute into certain places. And if we get the cooperation of the soul of the planet and can interact, then we can manifest as Chinese, have a perfect understanding of the culture as well as the language. Now, I don't know when you come back if you'll forget all that. You only need it when you use it. And it'll be the same with Africa or anywhere else. So this is what's coming. This is the realization of what we can do on this planet. So it'll be very easy to manifest as a man on this planet. Maybe not as on the moon unless you're in a dome. But that's why we're just getting used to this idea of playing in this mystery of the matter state of the entity to its energies and all the other interactions and compressions and percentages that need to be put into this process. So it's quite a, as he said here, it's quite a, creation is very complicated. We just see what suits us in the physical dimension, but it's being opened up a little bit more. Now we realize there's another player sort of involved. We talked about the soul of the creator, the soul of the man, the soul of physicality. Now we're adding on in a way, the soul of the planet or the energies of this planet, central energies of this planet as part of the process we need to understand. There's much more. I wanted to go into the geopolitical aspect since it's in all the news, but I don't think we'll have time. But it's up to you. We'll put the link in for the 633, but you can find it on YouTube and soon, most likely, to find it on the One Nation network structure that's being set up. And maybe sort of YouTube and all the funny things that go on to YouTube will sort of fade in a way, the same way the store is disappearing and moving into Shopify. We may disappear on the YouTube, but I don't know that. I know he mentioned that about X, but apparently X is not really, it's not a good environment for these teachings. So I think it'll be the One Nation network, and that's for us to deliver it. And you can see that in the store. And again, you don't need a One Nation Network box to actually play the game, but you do need a wallet. But if you can, this is part of the gift to humanity. As Mr. Keshe said, we wanted peace and he put peace on the table. This is the One Nation Network structure, which is being set up a grid, not only on this planet, under the oceans as well, and probably across the solar system and the universe, that we can really freely operate between or transit between these dimensions that we only thought was a fantasy, between this energy and this matter state dimension. And all the created entities will have this ability, as we hear in that video. A new tomorrow. This is part of the whole process, so we're all going to have this understanding in the future. But that may take some time. As we know, the creation is not small, but the knowledge can touch everyone pretty quickly as this starts to unravel itself or open up, let's say. Let's go to the Dome of Peace before we move on to the next idea, or Alex's teaching in a way. So creating a dome of peace by releasing plasma waters and using the energies, your central energies or the soul of the man to bring it. It's a two-step process in a way. And the first step, of course, is releasing GAN's waters, which you can make. You can go on the Keshe Foundation wiki, learn how to make a very simple GANs, converting the energies, or in a way, carbon to a nano of itself, and it appears as a solid in the matter state. And then you would take a third of the water above any container that GANS is in and release that in so many ways. And of course, the Brazilian team has also made a background for Sunday, where every Sunday we do release GANS waters at 6 p.m. or 12 p.m., whatever suits you, or you could do it at both. And it's not limited to just Sunday. You can release GANS waters at any time. This is part of the, in a way, elevation of the soul of this planet, and perhaps making connections. We thought about that as you release that GANS water and put the intentions in, maybe you're connecting to the soul of this planet, because you're bringing an elevation or an energy that was missing. So that's the first one. And of course, you can go on KesheBrazil.com, and this is where you can find many of the, or all of the transcripts of the Keshe Foundation. You can convert them into any language you like. And many people go to KesheBrazil.com and either download or look at the workshops and the transcriptions that are in there. And they're a bit unique, but they're beautiful as well. So you can, on Wednesday, on the energy dimension, you can join this intention at 6 p.m. The daily intentions are at 1 a.m. But in this one, these are actual meetings that the Brazilian team conducts. People can interact. You can actually join. And most of it is quiet time, where you're just using your central energies to elevate the world, the soul of the world leaders. And this is what we're doing, in a way, creating this dome of peace, that everyone can become more peaceful. So we thank and continue to elevate the Brazilian team as well. But they do have, as Mr. Keshe said, they have their soul that they've created in that group has the strength to see it through, and they have been seeing it through. So this is the first step. And again, it's hard to imagine that releasing waters could make any difference. The planet is already full of water, so how could a few more drops of water added to this situation change anything? But again, the GANS is, in a way, the water is just a carrier for the fields, and it has a unique way of finding and seeking out to create balance. And it has some sort of intelligence. This is the way it was designed, to bring a peaceful balance environment. So this is the first step in creating this dome of peace, is the release of the GANS waters, and you can do it any way that suits you.
I don't know if anyone wants to read this Dome of Peace. Anyone want to offer?
I
With
will
a nice
read it
voice.
for you.
Okay.
This is what came in and what is now become a pattern. This from a guy, I don't know him, but he says, please remember this Sunday and every Sunday from now on, until we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the gas waters around the world at 12 p.m. Central European Time and or 18 p.m. Central European Time every Sunday at the same time as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for participating in this greatest movement by the soul of the man to bring about the peace on this planet as the permanent feature of the life of this planet.
So again, in this workshop, he talked about getting in touch or becoming aware or making that connection with the soul of the planet. And now just by this simple exercise, either knowingly or like myself, unknowingly, I think we were raising or connecting with the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet just by releasing the Gans waters. I didn't understand the full ramifications of it. We're putting our intentions in it as well, peace and calmness and freedom and the rest, to the Gans waters, but this is how you're raising the soul of this planet as well. So you're making that connection. I know he talked about walking barefoot on the ground and along the shore, laying on the ground, making those connections. And as I said earlier, I've been using the cup of man 1 and 2, and then raising my hands and making a connection that way using my sort of antennas, if we could look at it that way. And of course, he explained in the last workshop how that raising of the hands was actually perverted in a way and changed. Man used to do this thousands and thousands of years ago, but then the religions came in and sort of perverted that practice into praying to God or raising your hands to God, which, as we now know, the God resides within you. So that's the first step of creating the Dome of Peace, releasing Gans waters. If you're not sure, you can go, as I said, Keshe Foundation Wiki, learn how to make it. Again, it's a transfer of energy or a conversion of energy from fields into a nano state or a superconductor. And then we take the water, which is carrying the fields, and we release them. And of course, the water structure is different too, as I understand. That's the first step of the Dome of Peace, something for your physicality to do. Now we're going to move to the second step of the Dome of Peace, which is, again, a collection of all of us releasing the Gans waters at the same time. Now we'll hear from Sweta, thank you, Stefania, about using the collective power of the souls or raising the awareness of the souls on this planet that they can bring a change through their central energies. But of course, we never believed in ourselves or our central energies, that it was anything really, that we were much more than we've been given credit for or given credit to ourselves for. But now, since we're starting to open up this mystery of the matter state of the entity to its energies, we can start using that system to reach across the planet and across the universe and create the conditions to connect anything and any entity to ourselves or to them. We can make that connection. And this is part of this practice. Again, you don't have to move the physicality. All you have to do is move in the energy dimension, which again, we're so matter state dominant that this couldn't possibly be correct, but it is. And this is the way the creation starts and the universe works. But everyone around us denied it, and we've denied it as well. But now it's being opened up. So it gives you an opportunity to practice this.
Anybody wants to read the Dome of Peace? I mean, Beautiful Souls. Here? Okay. I'll read this beautiful presentation of Dome of Peace. And the Dome of Peace is already here. All the knowledge seekers, truth seekers, lovers of humanity has built it in a way, spreading the Gans, loving each other as shareholders. So I will read this as please remember, every Sunday from now on until we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet, Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the Gans waters around the world at 12 p.m. CET and or at 18 p.m. CET every Sunday at the same time, as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for the participation in this greatest movement by the soul of man to bring about the peace on this planet as a permanent feature of the life of this planet. Mr. Keshe suggests we add the next step to create the dome of peace with power of the souls, as we have already going through this with the 2 eyes. And we ask you to spread the guns, waters each Sunday. Now we give you a new path. Now try to unite each other's souls. Try to elevate the souls of humanity, soul of humanity, through your own soul to a level that no one can touch, the embodiment of the human race. So beautiful. Choose a time where all of you come together on the soul level in a state of inner calmness. At that time, don't spread the water of guns, but spread your soul. Unite, and in time, we will make a new race out of the soul of man. And then, instead of doing it once a week, do it all the time. Keshe.
Okay, so it's not a lot of work and not a lot of effort, even making the GANs, and you're all invited by the Universal Council to participate in this process every day at 9 p.m., either Central European Summertime, which we're going into on the 29th of March, or the Central European Time. And the reason being is that we make a bouquet of fields that you may have a certain strength, maybe in combination with another person's strength, that the soul of the world leaders will pick up, and it'll change a dimension within their dimension of physicality. But more importantly, which that is important, but it's to learn how to use our energy dimension to connect to these different places or entities that we may want to connect with. So this is, again, learning how to elevate souls in need. You may find those when you travel that space again, and you can give energies that are needed. So every day at 9 p.m. you can join, and you don't have to be in a quiet room. You don't have to be isolated. You can do this in a very noisy or a work environment, or while you're working. Again, you can just take 1 nanosecond, 1 minute, whatever you'd like. And again, you can then extend it. And of course, by giving to the others, you find out that you get nourished. You don't lose anything. And this was one of the things I wanted to play about how this fear really breaks us in a way and limits us when we have this fear. So again, just giving in this dimension is very easy, doesn't take a lot of work, doesn't take a lot of physical activity, where you can spend as little as a nanosecond or maybe even a picosecond if you'd like. But it all works the same way. It's just the idea of being able to start to work with this dimension we haven't trusted in and haven't even believed in it, of course, has been hidden from ourselves systematically. So Mr. Keshe is opening this up. So let's just take 1 minute and again, create fields within your reactor, or again, within yourself, and give to the soul of the world leaders rather than the physicality of the world leaders, that allow the soul to change a dimension within the physicality. And even through this process, the idea is to reach, most of these world leaders are really not leaders. They're actual spokespeople for those operating behind them or behind the curtain, as we've heard. So the whole idea is we can reach their soul, but we can also touch the soul of the ones operating behind the curtain. And of course, what's been explained with the transition in Iran and some of the other families we've heard about, we can touch them as well. It's not a physical thing that we want to do. We want to bring the elevation of their energies. And again, we get nourished in this whole process. So I would say it's a win-win, but we're learning how to operate in this dimension that we never trusted in. And that's why I like that Keshe fan sort of commercial. It's time that we trust in something we can't see, plasma wind. So let's create some wind, and let's elevate the soul of the world leaders that, and again, as we can see, it's greatly needed at this point in time, but this may be part of the process of bringing the whole process to an end. That's what Mr. Keshe was saying. as far as the geopolitical aspect. So let's just take 1 minute of our time. Again, doesn't have to be perfectly quiet. Everyone around you can be doing whatever they're doing, and you just, again, go into that energy dimension while you're still doing whatever you do, and just give to the others. We can definitely multitask. It's just something men are not familiar with. Women have been doing this for eons. So the multitasking should not be a problem as well. So anytime, any place, collectively at 9 p.m. CEST time or CET time. And then you can do it as early and as often as you like. So let's just take 1 minute before Alex joins us and just demonstrate how easy the process is. We start now. And just how easy that process is, all we have to do is to give, because we already know we take what we need. So this is the way the Creator operates, the Son and the rest. We can just give and extend that as often as you'd like. All right, let's welcome Alex in. We did miss you last week. Thank you for sending it wasn't AI generated. I think you generated it, but we enjoyed that. But we certainly had less questions and answers. But we welcome you back, and hopefully you'll be here for as long as you'd like. And thank you for coming in and sharing more of the understanding as you see it. Or as you said, you just don't want to repeat what Mr. Keshe is saying. You sort of want to, in a way, frost it yourself and how it befits you to share the knowledge. And that's perfectly exactly what Mr. Keshe said. We don't need any intermediaries or gurus here or across the universe. It's how it befits you, and hopefully we can take something from you, Alex, of what you're sharing about your understanding. So thank you again, and we all welcome you back.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for bringing the team here. This is the Keshe American Knowledge Team meeting of 2026, and I thank you all for attending and making it such a strong session. Let's get to business here and see if we can have a great session.
Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
And thank you very much, everybody. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute teachings on plasma science. We are in the intermediate picotech subject matter. Today we're going to discuss array. My name is Alexander. I am from Canada. It is March the 15th of 2026. And this is part of the Keshe Foundation North America Plasma Education Series. So as of last week, we had to discuss what was called inherent. And as a result of that, it was following up. We discussed ribbons, beacons, and then inherent. And it's part of the ongoing series because one of the problems that we're having is terminology. And what does it mean? And so when we say inherent, it's something that is existing in something as a permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute. So which one is the most important word? Existing, permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute? So I submit that it's all. Because whatever is inherent is displayed as an array. An array is a noun, is an impressive display or range of a particular type of thing. It's an ordered series or an arrangement. I've often talked about sequential energy flows. So an array would be an ordered series. As a verb, it's to display or arrange things in a particular way. So those are the common words. But in science, an array is a fundamental linear data structure in computer science that stores a collection of elements of the same data. This data is of a type that's in contiguous memory locations. Each element is identified by an index or key, typically starting at 0, allowing for efficient direct access to data. Arrays are essential for storing related data sequentially. There's that word sequence again. So this understanding becomes very important because we all want security. And true security leads to certainty. This is a quotation. Because a false sense of security leads to a true sense of certainty. And the author is yours truly. You have to think about that for a while. We are trying to transcend the matter plasma dimensions. So we understand that there's a physical part of it where you can touch it and see it, but there's a plasmatic part of it that you can't touch or can't see. And it's part of the feeding and it's part of the feedback, but we are feedback dominant, right? We understand our gravitational nature. And so the old science has jammed us into a box and we are very comfy there. It gives us security. But once we go outside of the box, we get into the nanotech and the picotech, which is what we're talking about now. We have to expand our horizons and to understand the nature of principal matter. Well, how does that affect you personally? Well, because the principal matter are the PM ticks. These are magnetical in nature. They are energy packs. They're packed together in a nice parcel and they diverge all over the universe. But when they come together as a force field and dilute together, they bring together the force fields of antimatter, dark matter, and matter gen, and they converge in the plasma gen, and they go through a conversion. They still remain in plasma matter. But our Earth space is also maggrav, and it's brought together in a gravitational state. When we interact with that, So we have a field interaction between our Earth state and our plasmagen state. We call that inertia. And that is another meaning to the word that most of us are not familiar with. We need to do this because we're in the beyond Beijing era. In 2025, May the 10th, the gold rush began. And this year, with the turn of the calendar, the silver rush has also begun. So in discussing the picoatomic, we have to understand that as beyond the nanomonatomic state. And when you look at the picoparticles that are like a pico beacon, and they're gravitationally inherent in terms of field strength. And with all these beacons, they create this emission array. And that's what we want to discuss today, because we're trying to get on the transmutation highway. We're very familiar with the transmission highway, where we have waves and frequencies. We understand carbon-12 as one of the elements in the periodic table of elements, but what about carbon-14, which is part of the transition highway? And what about carbon-16, which is part of the transmutation highway? And how do we get on that exit ramp, or is it an on-ramp? Well, when we look at the raindrops and how they come, there's something that's interesting here, because the raindrops are magnetical, and that magnetical strength is imparted through its gravitationally inherent picocore. And from that bullseye, the waves go up and the waves go down. And then they go up and then they go down. And they always emit out. So we don't all understand science. We understand waveforms in singularity. And many of us have to drive a crooked mile just to drive a straight line. And we see how we zigzag back and forth on the transmission. And so when we zig one way, that's magnetical. And when we zig the other way, well, that's gravitational. And so we have to follow that ribbon. And in our understanding, as we zig one way, and if we come down that hill, then we have to turn to the right to zig the other way. But if we look at the plasma, it operates in a different format. It has to cross over. Why does it have to cross over? Because the waveforms are not in singularity. We judge frequencies by the sine waves in singularity. But if we have a second wave, we can overlap that and we see the sine waves in duality, for instance. And we can modulate this by increasing the height of the wave. Or we can distort it or put it out of focus by having a sine wave in duality. So these are all the possibilities, but not all of the possibilities. It's just to know that there are many ways to look at things. So as Marin Tevakoli Keshe has tried in book number 1 to teach the universal order of the creation of matter, we're bringing together the antimatter, the dark matter, and the matter state. And then to understand that then book number 2, the structure of the light, brings it from one matter state to another matter state. So somehow there's a connection between the two. But when we look at book number 3, the origin of the universe, you have that one state and it splits up into 2 states, one of which is our tiny perfect world. And where is it? Oh, it's in man's universe. It's just a speck on a speck in this big universe. And here we are with a counterbalancing sister universe, which we can't see and we ignore because what you see is what you get. So for 421 weeks, Rick Crammon and the Universal Council have brought together one planet, one nation, one race for justice and world peace. Because here we are on our planet, all part of this planet, and we tend to fight amongst ourselves, which is kind of strange. We're all part of the same team. Why are we all fighting? And what about the team that we can't see? Do we have to fight them as well? Or are they also our brothers and sisters? So what we talk about frequently is by falling through weakness, we talk about falling angels. And in that angular density, as we come, we increase the density and increase the pressure, and of course, we increase the gravity. All in all, we increase the dependence on Earth space feeding. But there's an internal pressure of the Gans fields, and that is where the angular momentum is conserved. So this is how we maintain that balance naturally, although we don't seem to recognize that, because when we talk about duality, the only thing that comes to mind are duels, where it involves a confrontation. And so the energy that's involved in that duel manifests as a friction, bringing two hands together. Maybe we clench the fists and manifest into fighting. So they say, gentlemen, shake hands and come out fighting. Really, are you gentlemen? Or are you just another form of inertia density manifestation? Because that's what it is, you see. The only way that we can continue that is because we don't follow the rules. And yes, someone gave us rules. There were 10 commandments. And then we had another 14 for a total of 24. And one of those commandments is thou shalt not lie. The reason I keep harping on that is because I used to play poker, and that is a game of liars. And the best liar usually wins. But how many times have you heard someone say, well, I'm just going to go play poker with some friends? Really? The friends who want to take all your money, those are great friends. And then, of course, they lie, cheat, and steal. And then, of course, with the poker game of life, where sometimes people kill. Energy binding is very important. No one can do that better than you. It's a self-serving certitude. That's your dimension point, me, myself, and I. But you were given that opportunity. Why do you have to take that at the expense of others who also depend on that me, myself, and I-ness? So they have that self-serving dimension point. So what's the alternative? They have to either confront you and fight you, or they have to lie, cheat, and steal from someone else. And then to what extreme do you go? All in all, what we're doing is we're leaking our vitality. That vitality is a loosh, it's a life force, it's an energy. It manifests, we understand, in an emotional and physical context. And so we are talking about vitality enhancement by connecting directly, not just using the regular means, but by using the super means, a superconductor, so that we can understand that this transaction zone in singularity requires a solo effort, but in duality requires a partnership. And a partnership, a true partnership, requires reciprocity. In other words, a balance of incentives. So they talk about a win-win. When armies come together and fight, how can you get that win-win situation? It's one wins and the other loses, isn't it? So it defies the plasma rule, and that's why we don't understand it. We say the higher strength beats the weaker strength, or the higher strength eats the weaker strength. Or how about the higher strength feeds the weaker strength? That still goes into the transaction zone. So we have a choice, either make it a conflict point or make it a binding zone. That binding zone is an inertia density manifestation. So this becomes the point that we want to talk about, because it's all part of dimension building. And so it takes a lot of skill and determination and time to do building, but it doesn't take much to do building destroying. So it's just kind of counterproductive, isn't it? Because how can you destroy one without destroying it yourself? That's the point, because when you have one point, you add a second, you connect the one together. It's not the same pico point, but that dimension building could be a dimension destruction. But in the plasma science, there's always a construction. So when we look at these two dimensions along the length, we see how the charge is done. And when I first learned about advanced science, I had to learn about charge. And the reason is because I needed a compass. How do you know where you're going without a compass? And in the plasma science, a compass doesn't usually work. Not the kind of compass that we know in our physicality. But in the plasma science, if you understand the negative charge, you understand the way things flow. And then when you put a bend in that path, you create a second dimension. And again, you create a charge. And this is what happens on Earth. This is why we can create hydrogen and we can create oxygen. And when those two come together, then we create water, which is the essential of life. But our position here deals with a position of choice. We're seeking a gravitational stability. This is manifest from that emotion of position. And that position is dictated by the magnetical stability. And that magnetical stability is part of the elevation. So that gives us a field of reference. So when we talk about the humanity civilization coming together, there's an inherent dependency on all the civilizations on this planet. And each of us acts like a beacon. And all of these civilizations coming together with the same story of the Great Flood. And so the humanity civilization becomes an array, a beacon of intent on this planet. We're really all here in the same game, and we're really all here playing on the same team. So when we see all the nanocharges come together, we see a beacon charge, and we also see a beacon discharge, and that's what it has to be. And so we come together in a circle, and from there we create an emission. And this is what's going on when we do the nano alignment. So we just advance it in our nano coding, and we get this monatomic alignment. But funny enough, we take a copper wire and we nano coat it, and it ends up being a carbon nanocrystal. So where did the carbon come from? Well, really and truly, it came from the same place that the copper wire came from, and the hydrogen and the oxygen. So as we manifest all of these nano monatomic layers, as each layer comes, it nests, one nests on top of the other, and these layers also end up with nano caps. Nano gaps are created the same way. They're the opposite of the star formation. So where you have a tetrahedron, when you bring your two index fingers together, you rotate one hand 90 degrees, you have a tetrahedron. This is star formation. You're only looking at one half of the picture. But that picture has a magnetical and gravitational relationship. And so as we look in the creation of matter, the coming together of the antimatter, the dark matter, and the matter state, that becomes its inertial density manifestation in the gravitational force field. But that cannot exist in singularity. It has to have a magnetical force field as well as a complementary. So when we look at, how we lay our boots on the ground, we don't lay them, upside down. We're not like way down under, and I'm talking from a North American perspective, but the people in South Africa and Australia, well, they're down under. But they're not on the ceiling. All the boots are on the ground. And that's the fact. We have to understand that fact. So when we look at mountain ranges and we say, well, on one side is the westward side and the other side is the leeward side, right? And as the energy flows, we can see there's a gravitational confirmation because we not only have the mountains up above the ground, but we have the waters below the ground, shall we say sea level. And then sometimes there's the water level is above sea level, and sometimes it's below sea level. And but the thing is, there's always this inherent gravity. In other words, in the mountain, there's a left side and a right side. And so that mountain itself has a picocore. So the mountain itself has a gravitational conformation. So does the sea or the ocean or the lake. And so if we look at this inherent gravity and just turn it 90 degrees, if we could, these mountain ranges would be intact. If they were disengaged from the surface of the earth. When you were a young child, they let you play with blocks. You can stand the blocks on end, or you can stand the blocks on either side. We learned that as children. But what happens if we bring them together as a duality? Now we have a picocore in duality. It has to be, because it has to be a gravitational conformation along those lines. Is that the only line that we consider? And what about the people? We have the boots on the ground, up the mountain, or in the valley, or on the ground. And each of us knows which way is up. And it's not exclusive to us. We're part of the horizontal people. So it's a good thing that we know which way is up, because when you get up in the morning, you stand on your feet. Unless you party too much, and then you might have trouble. But the point is, the vertical people, why are they vertical? Plants grow up. Children grow up. This is how it's done. So there's an inherent picocore, and it comes together from, as we started with rotating reactors, and they create a plasma field. And then they all come together, like we showed these rotating balls in Beijing. And we didn't just have them in singularity, but we had them in duality. It's the same thing. And we put them in a star formation. And so each of these rotating fields came together and created a dynamic reactor. And in that process, we manifest gold. So we understand how these nanostars are working together. You get this multiple monatomic energy flow, and it's a superconductor at room temperature. We've been talking about that for well over 2 decades. And there's an inherent connection line. So now we understand how there are connections. And in chemistry, for instance, more than 3 in a chain is a polymer. But in life, these chains fold over. And then each of them becomes a fragment of the complexity. This is all part of the nuclear feeding inertia. This invites gravitational stability and allows dimensional portability. These are the individual dimension points, and each of these points contribute to the whole. So this is where 1 + 1 + 1 is more than 3, because there's no consumption here. It's an ongoing process where you have this energy on the one side balanced off by the energy on the other side, regardless of whether you're in the atomic state, nanostate, Gantt state, or plasma state. You always have this Magrav energy transfer state from state to state as well. And so there's always a balance of incentives. This is what we keep talking about. So each of these fragments operate as a clue. when you have these waves of convergence, or you have the waves of divergence, and the convergence and the divergence are fragments of the whole. And so these interactions are all part of the inertia, and they are all clues on how things operate gravitationally, where they converge, and magnetically as they diverge. You need both. And so when we talk about gene modification, we have to understand that there are inherent attributes of the genes. And most of us are familiar with blue genes, but sometimes we have green genes and other colored genes. So any kind of gene modification is an adaptation confusion. And is it disruption? Is it alteration? And is it enduring? Is it reversible? Well, the plasma science says yes, it is, because when you look at the cellular beacons, we're made up of trillions of cells in our body. So each cell becomes a beacon. In other words, it communicates with the next cell, and you get all the cells coming together, and eventually you get your body. And the fundamental building blocks of these cells, of course, the beacon of life, are the amino acids, and they form chains. And it's kind of a zigzag pattern, isn't it? So you have an upness and you have a downness. And so we look at the saturated fatty acid, where you have a water-soluble delta end and an oil-soluble omega end. And of course, if you understand surface to volume ratios, so you know which way is the flow of the direction. However, this saturated fatty acid is in a straight line. So what we don't see is the fatty acid array, the magnetical field on the one side and the gravitational field that is counterweight on the other side, and it creates this balance. And the zigzag is an overlap. So you zig and overlap and zag and overlap and zig and overlap and zag and overlap and like a ribbon. And this is one flow of energy, because this array creates a field that is accumulation of all the individual arrays. And then the key to the alpha linolenic acid is it's an essential acid. We call it omega-3, 6, and 9. And back to the terminology problem, essential acids are slightly alkaline. But when they bend like this, they create water. They're bringing oxygen and hydrogen together. And so you have your alpha linolenic acid array. And so they bend and they go straight, and they bend and they go straight. So obviously at some point in time, there is a signal that comes, and this is the beacon of truth on how hydrogen is produced on this planet and its fundamental transmission reality, not only of our DNA, but also of our RNA. And the two work together in two dimensions. However, there is another dimension which is unseen. And so that beacon of truth becomes many beacon array of truth. And they collectively give an emission, a magnetical and a gravitational emission that you can't see. So what we're talking about here is enlisting the services of other beacon arrays of truth. Enlisting the services. 73 trillion cells in our body. come together, enlisting the services of each other collectively to give you a beacon of consciousness. And so we manifest this carbon connection. That's why we are organic. So in one way, we are magnetical, in another way, we are gravitational. Well, you can't be one without the other. It is impossible. The two have to come together. So isn't it interesting when we look at the phospholipids, you get two essential fatty acids and they're joined at the head. Well, that's right. You have one head, you have two arms, and you have two legs. So we find that the heads are hydrophilic, but the tails are hydrophobic, which is a good thing because if you go into the water, you don't want to melt when you go into the water. That's why you form skin on the cells. That's how it's done. And when we look at these phospholipids, they are tail to tail. So the hydrophilic heads are part of the outside, but they're also part of the inside. So that transition layer is where the two hydrophobic tails come together. Well, we all know that light charges repel. So there's a problem here. Well, that's one of the reasons these are bending, because there's a gravitational and there's a magnetical counterbalance. And these fields not only overlap, but they cross over. And they cross over magnetically, and then they cross over to the gravitational side, and then they cross over gravitationally, and then they cross over to the magnetical side, and so it goes. 250,000 times a second. And in that process, we grow, and we have this gravitational transition zone, which gives us gravitational certainty. You cut yourself, you wound some cells, new cells have to be replaced. You cut yourself on your arm, you have security in knowing that your nose is not going to grow on your arm, but an arm cell is going to grow there. That's when you enlist the services of the array of the adjoining cells. That's what it means. And so when we're digesting our food, we're taking this food and we're converting it to GANs, and we're using it as an energy supplementation so we can facilitate this. So we absorb the nutritional essence, the gravitational attraction of energy, and we released the waste essence, which is the magnetical repulsion of energy. And so there's an inness and an outness. And so when we look at our cells, we find that to maintain that gravitational neutron, that internal pressure stems from being calcium. The calcium seed is inherent in our cellular structure. So as the phospholipids come together and they create this boundary around our cells, we find that it's a plasma array. It has to be so that you have intercellular communication and intracellular communication. So you have an intensity and an outensity interaction. So to maintain the outer phospholipids, there has to be a gravitational certainty. To maintain the intensity, there has to be a gravitational certainty. In between these two layers, in order to create the cell, there has to be a gravitational certainty. So the plasma matter dilemma of balancing and counterbalancing whether it be in the plasma state or any state, is the magnetical certainty on one side and the gravitational certainty on the other side to be a counterbalance. Or we can go through the energy transfer state and have the magnetical certainty, let's say in the nanostate, and the gravitational certainty in the atomic state, understanding that the lower energy state always has an inertia density manifestation, whether it's in physicality or whether it's in the plasma state. So the emission of intention then becomes the launch point being magnetical and the target point being gravitational. And then the dynamic plasma interaction where the return has to be a launch point and the return is target point is gravitational. So in order to function this way, you have to have gravitational certainty. And so that's what we did with the GANs of the soul. We took the cups of life and we took one cup of emotion and another cup of emotion, and we created a cup of life product, an emotion transaction zone. And then we did the cup of physicality and another cup of physicality. So we created the GANs of the GANs. And so the GANs of the emotion and the GANs of the physicality comes together with another GANs field where we created the transaction zone known as the picocore, part of the nucleus of the cellular nucleus. And because of that gravitational certainty, which you are certain of, because that makes you a gravitational entity traveling in a magnetical field. And that magnetical field allows us to connect, as we did with the cup of the universe, bringing together the gravitational certainty of the zinc GANs, the emotion, and the gravitational certainty of the copper GANs, the physicality, and the carbogen GANs, which is the connection to the universe. So we ask the question, how do we get this gravitational certainty? Is it symmetry or is it a reflection? What we're talking about is love. Because what we understand in our presence on this planet, we are still pioneers. And that's how we've been pioneering America. But is it reality or is it an illusion? And when we talk about love, Aphrodite comes to mind, the ancient Greek goddess. But is it a reflection? Or is it an illusion? Is it one point of view? Or is it another point of view? We've been talking about this for a while. The maintenance of the inertia highways involves all three dimensions, and they are supported by a background field. And that background field, it too is supported by a background field. So now we can look at the cosmic ray equilibrium differently. That each and every component has a gravitational stability offset by magnetical stability. You cannot have one without the other. And so what you have is a combination of a variety of fields, because each field is an array. And the coming together of all of these fields creates another array, which is enlisting the services of the energy fields that are created within each array. So when we look at the creation of free plasma, there's an inherent connection line. That line is the gravitational picocore, where we bring together the star formation transaction zone of the carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen, which is part of the creation of life. And that's only one point, and we come together with another transaction zone. And each of us is an independent variable because each of us has this structure within a structure. That's why we're all part of this organic structure. Well, the same thing happens in the inorganic structure. Each of them is inherent in their susceptibility and singularity, but it requires a gravitational completion to have this inherent structure in susceptibility in duality. And that completion comes from an external input of a Gans field of humanity. So each of us has the Midas touch because each of us is part of this counterweight measure where we see in the physical state the weight and the atomic state of the mass, and that constitutes part of the gravitational energy field. Then you see the nuclear state, which we measure in Tesla, and the plasma state, which we measure in time. Oh, yes. And that's part of the magnetical counterweight. And so both come together and they manifest as a plasma. But no two plasmas are the same because of the path of the PM ticks. And so you have this dimension array point coming together. And although they're all PM ticks, when they come together, one is magnetical, one is gravitational. But in terms of the pico-ness, the pico core of the PM tick, it too has to have this magnetical gravitational relationship. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. So that forms a new transaction zone and imparts the attributes that are inherent, that gives you that gravitational certainty. So all of these are part of the emission light array, and we're crossing the threshold into that physicality. So we understand that oxygen is a non-visible gas, but obviously it is in a physical state. So the plasmatic understanding decays to a Gans, and the Gans can decay from a gas to a liquid to a solid. So it is all gravitationally inherent. That's what gives you the certainty. But there has to be magnetical certainty to offset, to counterbalance. And so that's why we're so dependent on that supplementation, because we understand the energy coming together due to consumption. That's part of an acquired knowledge of our earth state. It's a conditional teaching by ancient teachers handed down over the years. But what about the unconditional teaching by the Creator? Not satisfied with a 20% deficiency. So here we are confronted with a new awareness where we have this historical threshold between the cosmic feeding and the loosh harvesting. So we look at our inherent attributes. We have a gravitational confirmation. We have a gravitational center point. We have a gravitational picocore. And we have gravitational certainty, which allows mutually assured construction. So as we head into uncharted territory, we have to understand that we are an array within an array. There are many stars beyond the nanomonatomic state, and they cover the full range from decay to radiation. The AI is the ancestral intelligence. You are the technology. You are the inertia product. You are the image of your dimensional convergence point. And our skill set has to extend to energy portability. So when we look at energy state transitions, we say elevation is the physical matter state to energy state, and the inertia is the energy state to physical matter state. So when we talk about elevation, it involves expansion. And that's really how we bring together the greater oneness. For 633 knowledge Seekers workshops in a row, we've been suddenly transcending the limitations of nuclear science. And it seems to be extreme, but it is there. It is not extreme, it's a certainty. It's all part of the cosmic ray transition. So join us. The next session is April 17th, and you can book now because we are all part of the research teams to convert diamonds to gold or silver, because May the 10th of 2025 was only a few months ago, and we saw the Pico core of truth, and the truth always, always wins out, delivering that scientific rescue. So what we're trying to do is open the blinds, one nation network at a time. That time is now, and we can see the hurdle that we have to cross, as we saw in the 630th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, that embedded inherent frequency, and it manifests in the soul of physicality and the soul, and the great abyss in between that was so hard for us to cross over because of our feedback dominance. Yes, it's time to bring the World Peace Treaty, one planet, one nation, one race together, because our mission is to bring peace on earth and join humanity with the universal community. We want to bring man as equal to all the beings in the universe by teaching the plasma science and technology equally to everyone. Then no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. So help us achieve this goal, because you're part of the array. Hello. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, teachings on plasma science, welcoming all the beautiful plasma travelers of the carbon nations, learning about the new frequencies of the new organic plasma science. This is a World Peace Treaty. Choose it. Sign it unconditionally. Mean it sincerely. How's that for a game plan? The point of the true Picotech is the polyatomic core manifestation. So these overlapping ribbons of Earth space create the peace dome. Is the inertia of presence governed by the dimensions of history? Or is it time to learn the history of self in a universal context? The Pico state silently explodes as a peaceful superconductor. The field strength has to enlist the array inherent at the Pico core of matter, plasma, and universal states. The plasma science is enhanced and needs to continue to be done daily via the Peace Dome in a practical exchange for peace on Earth. So welcome to the new golden outer space age. I hope you enjoyed this trip. Thank you so much for allowing me to present.
And thank you again, Alex. We see some hearts floating up. All right, let's see if anyone has a question they'd like to raise. It doesn't have to be necessarily with what Alex covered, but hopefully it is something in relation to. Thank you for coming back, Alex, in a way. But let's see if there's any questions from the participants. I know you talked about the flood, and of course, Mr. Keshe said we do have a flood of, what did he say, ignorance and arrogance on this planet, and this has become our downfall. So thank you in a way for cleaning that up a bit today as we continue to move in this direction. But anyone want to raise a question? Okay. It was shared last week while you were out. I'll just take the screen for a moment here. You could take it back right after this. This was shared, and I thought it was quite appropriate from the Sistine Chapel about this finger and the touching. Isn't this Michelangelo who was showing, I guess this is the God and this is the man, and they're sort of connecting, or maybe they don't even have to touch to connect. But he said these fingers, these nails are the best nanomaterial. I don't know if you ever thought about that, Alex. He said this is the best nanomaterial in the universe, your toenails and your fingernails. I was wondering, can we do anything with that nanomaterial, or does it only work when it's in conjunction with the body of the man? Or can we, I was just thinking of all the filings and things and the clipping of the nails. Is there something, I mean, if you're aware of anything we can do with that best nanomaterial in the universe? Or as I said, does it only work in conjunction with the body of the man?
Well, I think you want to look at your body as a marvel, because there are many questions that we go through life that are unanswered. But, you know, it just seems to, if you look at your nails and you say, well, the nails are hard and they're on the back of your finger, and the front of your finger is a soft, cushy pad, how is that possible? Have we ever asked that? Has that ever been a discussion, you know, when you get together with the guys after the poker game? Oh, you know, how come your nails are so hard and your fingers are so soft? It's just not something we discuss, right? We just take it as, oh, well, it's a matter of fact, you know, that's how it's done. But, you know, when you look at a cat, not only does it have nails, but it seems to retract them within its paw. But gee whiz, don't get the cat angry and you'll see the nails and they'll be really, really sharp. And they are extremely sharp. But well, how do they do that? You know, is that what a cat does all the time? Just sits in the corner with a nail file, you know, sharpening the nails? So we just take this stuff for granted and we say, oh, you know, well, that's just the way it is. But there is a scientific explanation for this. And we have been, well, I'm just going to talk about me. Every time I ask a question in school, shall we say, the teachers or the professors or people who are supposedly in a position to teach us, and when we ask them these hard questions, because it slightly deviates from the course, maybe, but you know, the whole purpose of teaching is to teach you to be a thinker. You ask the question and the answer is, well, I don't know. I don't know. We don't know. We, like collectively, we, you know, the whole array of humanity, nobody on this planet knows how a nail is created. Well, then really we have to assume that someone has done a survey of all 8 billion people on this planet and said, you know, do you know why your nails are hard and your fingers are soft? Which of course is a ridiculous notion. So here now we're given an answer, and so what is the difference? So you know that the nails are gravitational and the finger is magnetical.
Yeah, I heard one person talk about, well, we've all talked about it, look to the work of the leaf. Could the nail and the other side of the finger be the same as two different nano coatings in a way, like the leaf structure?
Of course.
And he said that the nails on the toe are more for connecting with the fields of the planet, where the nails on the finger are more for connecting and transmitting and receiving, both of them, to the universe. So the fingers are more for the universal energies, where he said the toenails were more for connecting to the energies of this planet. And again, I don't know how that works. Maybe more will be brought out. But I was just thinking of how many times I've cut the nails, and everyone has, or filed them, and all that nano material.
Well, remember that Jalal taught us that the right hand is the giver and the left hand is the taker. So if we have the nails and the fingers on both hands, you know, how come we have a difference? One is magnetical, one is gravitational. So both are plasmatic in nature, and both exchange a charge, but they're not the same.
Okay.
So this is the thing that we have to understand, that there's always a counterbalance. So although we say, well, this is why some people are right-handed, some people are left-handed. So we have a preference. So the handedness, or what we call chirality, is inherent. And so every one of us on this planet have an inherent left-handedness. When we look at the right-handed chirality, that doesn't help us on this planet the way this is structured. So if we were to overcommit to one or the other, then we would violate that balance, because we know that both have to be present. You cannot have a MAGRAV minus one or the other. That is the lesson. That is what we have to understand. That is the certainty. That is the security. And we take with that security to transcend our knowledge into the various subjects. So we need to use that as our guiding beacon. Back to you, Mark.
Yeah, I was just thinking, this scene is in a chapel, which is in a church, or chapel is part of a church, I guess. And is Michelangelo, again, this is where we've been taught where the church has actually perverted the raising of the hands into a prayer thing. So is Michelangelo, even within the structure of the church, and all Mr. Keshe said about the hands and the fingers and so on and so forth, is he giving us a clue right in front of the clergy, in a way, about this connection of the fingers and the hands, receiving and transferring energies?
Well, this is a very good question. So if we look at this picture, the way it's set up, there is, shall we say, some other being of a higher power, and we have a being of a lower power. The higher power gives with the right hand, and the lower power takes with the left hand. And each one is independent. So how is it possible to cross that threshold without some kind of gravitational certainty? Because the fingers are magnetical. So how is it possible to transfer the energy from one to the other?
I thought they were both. He said the nails allow us to transmit and to receive fields.
Exactly. So the finger itself has a gravitational certainty, and the connection between the two fingers also has a gravitational certainty. This is what we have to understand, that every time there's an exchange, that there's a magnetical gravitational relationship and there's a gravitational certainty.
It sounds like you're certain about that.
I am now.
Anyone else want to raise a question? Here's a pretty easy one. You talk about growing from the top up. Now, somebody was saying that a tree, if you see a tree and maybe it's 10 feet tall and its lower branches are 4 feet tall coming up, that even if the tree grows to be 25 feet, those branches that are 4 feet off the ground, they stay at 4 feet off the ground. They were saying a tree grows from the top up. Now, I don't know if you were a woodsman or worked in that sort of field, but do trees grow from the top up? And if those branches were 4 feet off the ground when it was 5 years old, when it's 20 years old, those same branches will still be 4 feet off the ground. How this relates to anything, I'm not sure, but I thought I'd bring it up.
That's a great question. Because you see, when you were a child, you were within your body. and then you grew up. So how did you grow? Did did you have a bicycle pump, and you just pump it and you just get bigger and bigger and bigger? So the thing is that that you have an aura, and that aura is manifest from the soul of physicality. That aura is on your outside. Clairvoyant people can see your aura. So you have to grow into your aura. The vertical people do the same thing. They grow into their aura. So yeah, you grow from the top up.
Okay, good. Anyone else want to ask a question? Let me ask you an easy question now. And again, you're just sharing your understanding. Next week, you may have a different answer to a same question. This is what I understand about this knowledge. As we grow, as we develop, our understanding perhaps changes or modifies, or we add to it. This is what he said about the scientific papers, that this is the point and that they make at this time. But if they become enlightened a little bit more, they can go back and change their scientific paper. We're talking about papers, of course, within the Keshe Foundation where there's no peer review. So the easy question is, Mr. Keshe said how intimately we are connected with the soul of this planet, that we couldn't exist without the soul of this planet. Now, we know that at some point in time, this planet will be, in a way, vacuumed back into its creator, into the sun, as it happens very commonly. I guess they call it going nova, or going. It will withdraw back into itself all its creation, and therefore the physicality of this planet of the Earth will not exist anymore. So does that mean, since we're so intimately connected with this planet, if it stopped existing, we stop existing? Or because the soul has been already created, that, yeah, we have a connection to the planet, but if it got pulled back into the sun, would we still be connected to the physical planet, or would the soul will still exist of the planet? Or are we connected to the soul of this planet for eternity, in a way, because we came out of it?
Well, thank you very much for asking that easy question. The implication from the terminology when we talk about existence, because we are feedback dominant, when we talk about our existence, it is exclusively in relationship to our earth. So to manifest in the physicality, you have to manifest somewhere. You can't manifest nowhere. But what we're talking about is the inertia density manifestation. That is the density manifestation into the physicality. But there is a density manifestation in the plasma reality. And so when you have that manifestation, you exist because you have a maggrav field creating with a magnetical and a gravitational orientation. It is from that field that you can be magnetically delivered into another plasma field that is of a similar attribute that would be desirable for us, and you may or may not choose to manifest in the physicality at that particular point. I think the implication of the answer has to deal with, would you manifest in the same conformity as you are now? So in other words, if you look in the mirror and you say, oh, well, I am human, and would you manifest in that other location with the same conformity, or would you look in the mirror and scream in horror, so what have I done? So the physical array is directly related to your gravitational position. It is from there that you have a gravitational security and a gravitational certainty, but you don't have a conformity certainty. It is dependent on the location, the time, and the position.
No, I was just thinking because he said we had these rubber bands connected, and as you go out into that space, you're pulled back to this planet. But what if the physicality of the planet didn't exist? Would we have to find another place to get pulled back to, in a way?
Well, yes, of course, and that's the obvious answer. Because nothing is nothing. Something is always something. So it's either this as opposed to something else. And what are the criteria that determine that? And, you know, are you just a victim or are you the game player?
Okay, anyone else would like that? Thank you, Alex. Anyone else would like to question? Any comments on the let's say, rushing the return of the promised one or the MECD? Apparently people are doing, I used to hear that in some of the, what they were talking about, some of the religious circles where they were waiting for Armageddon because that meant that the MECD was about to arrive, and some of the people are actually, they're not going to wait for that to happen, but they want to help it along in a way, create that Armageddon so the Messiah or the MECD is to return. Any comments on the return of MECD? Apparently they're flying some very large flags, and people at certain levels in many different religions, he said they're all anticipating the return of the MECD or the Messiah. But they're all going to have to agree. So this is going to create quite a bit of an issue, because as he said, if they do agree, then they sort of have to sell the farm because they're really not needed anymore. They've been just waiting for the Messiah to come back. And when he appears, will they be able to do that as far as sell the farm and take the frock off and the rest of it? Or is the business just too good to give up or agree? And as we know, they're looking for a man, but Mr. Keshe said this is why they can't find the MECD, because the MECD is not a man. The MECD is a knowledge. And this is the knowledge of creation, I believe. This is all the Creator carries, is his knowledge and his love, or his giving. This is how it works. But yeah, many in the matter state are trying to, in a way, encourage the Messiah to appear, or what they think of is supposed to be as they're interpreting their holy books in a way. Any comments on that from Alex or anyone?
Well, yeah, that knowledge is inherent. And you know it's inherent because you don't have to do anything in terms of changing your knowledge. If you jump up, you'll come back down. If you jump down into a hole, you'll go right to the bottom. So you have gravitational certainty there. And that's just something that is inherent in our, Constitution. So, it's more important for us to accept that certainty and understand that acceptance of that certainty, where you have your feet firmly planted on the ground, is only half the picture. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. So you're a prime example, what Mr. Keshe was saying about how the weather and the storms and the clouds can change our emotion. And you've reported you're about to get, or are getting, quite a bit of snow in your area. And I know a couple weeks ago we had a large storm here, and I wasn't really happy about having to deal with that. How are you sort of seeing this now, Alex, where obviously you have a project, you're going to have to do a little bit of it or most of it, but how could we handle this when, what's that old saying? When we get lemons, we can make lemonade or something with it. how do we look at some of these things that happen? Or you're going to have a wedding and it's an outside wedding, and all of a sudden the clouds come in. It was supposed to be a great day, but the rain starts falling and everything looks like it's going to be ruined. How do we handle these sort of weathers or clouds or emotions from this planet? Or is it just a normal process of this planet? Nothing to do with us in a way. I mean, as far as trying to affect us wrongly, how can we sort of look at the emotions from this planet and how to deal with them?
Well, again, it becomes your point of view. You know, for some people that becomes a hardship, and for some people it's a joy. And as Gail was mentioning, you know, the preference to do cross-country skiing, well, that's one enjoyment. People don't do that here. They get their snowmobiles, and they
Right.
just absolutely love it.
Right. The
But
children seem to enjoy it a lot. The father thinks, am I going to get a heart attack from shoveling the snow? But the children are usually quite exuberant as they can build things and snow forts and different things in the snow. So, two different emotions in a way to the same event. Like you said, the snowmobilers, cross country skiers, they have a different emotion, don't they? Than someone who has to remove it, let's say.
that's right. That's right. But you know, the snowmobilers, you know, generally are kind of devil may care, and you know, they don't consume as much gasoline as their cars do. And so even though we've been hammered with a unrealistic price increase
Yeah,
in gas at the
petrol.
pumps, yeah. Well, you know, it's minor when it comes to a snowmobile, and that's only going to be for the next couple of days because the warmer weather is coming and it'll melt everything. So, from an agricultural standpoint, this is a very good thing because it is again protecting the ground and protecting everything that's in the ground, and eventually that snow will melt and it'll be like it'll be converted to water, which you know will nourish the vertical people in the ground, and it'll mean a much better spring, a much earlier spring. The plants will know when to grow. Somehow they are more intelligent than we are because they are actually tuned in to the shall we say magnetical feeding, which we are ignoring because we are feedback dominant.
Okay, he talked a lot of. Anyone else want to ask a question before I ask my final question? We were talking about this a little bit in the workshop about how he said we need to be aware or consider this connection to the earth. And I guess it's in the, you know, in the energy dimension, but when we walk barefoot, when we walk on the beach and so on, are we connecting as well to the soul of the planet this way, or we lay on the ground, put our back of our head on the ground? He said this is the closest connection, I guess, using our physicality we can make with the soul of this planet. So is that in a way voicing to the universe that we do want to connect with the soul of this planet? And of course, releasing the Gans waters for the elevation of the soul of this planet. Are we showing other ways? Do you think these are viable ways of connecting with the soul, or does it all have to be in the energy dimension?
Well, you understand that that's an inherent attribute. So, yeah, we are always connected to this planet. It's just that, you know, in our modern society, we like to live in caves. We call them condominiums. And definitely, if you're living 10 stories above the ground, you're not connected to the ground in the same way. So you're losing that connection. We have many intermediaries in that connection, you know, such as our shoes and our cars and our snowmobiles and things like that. So yeah, walking barefoot through the you know forest is you know reconnecting, if you will, in that way. But we are always connected. That it just all depends on the, shall we say, the field strength of that connection. So that connection of itself is a gravitational connection.
But we can strengthen this connection, yes?
Of course.
Okay. Okay, we'll be applying that as the spring and summer comes. I look forward to walking on the beach as I did last year and laying on the ground in a way, just to sort of make that connection again. And of course, we're applying the cup of man, as I said, feet and head, to create a interaction of fields.
Well, I would just like to say that, because we're feedback dominant, we're so focusing on this gravitational connection to the earth. We say, oh, we want to be grounded. Well, of course we're grounded because we can't exist if we weren't grounded. That's the whole essence of existence in the physicality here. What we are not is magnetically stable because we just choose to be gravitationally only, but we don't, shall we say, enlist the services of our array capabilities to share our knowledge or emotion with others. We don't see the ability to enlist the services of our neighbors. We see our neighbors, that's them, this is me, that's you, don't bother me. And, when we look in the cities where everybody's gathered together gravitationally because of the city, still we are emotionally apart, because that's your condominium, this is my condominium, leave me alone and don't bother me. And so when the social life becomes unbearable in the city, people want to escape and they want where it's peaceful and quiet. And that's an inherent characteristic of our nature. And when we do that, then we become isolationist. And we say, oh, we don't want to interact with other people because other people are bad. We want to be in the country where we can ground ourselves. Well, we are all grounded, to an extent, but what we're losing is that herd benefit. In other words, our society is suffering through our division. We are losing the benefit of the collective soul. That collective soul is an array. And so all of us have that inherent gravitational stability and that inherent seeking of security. And so we latch on to this false sense of security, and that becomes our certainty because we literally, how shall we say, dupe ourselves, right? We falsely put ourselves in a position where we believe, even though it's not really true. So please don't tell me what I need to hear. Just tell me what I want to hear. I like that warm and fuzzy world.
Yes, that's what he brought up. We're addicted to denial, where we choose and pick what befits us and the rest we sort of disregard. So yeah, we have to open up, I think, to all of it and not have those prejudices, I guess. But again, I'm just sort of scratching the surface of it.
So we have to, sorry, Mark, we just have to determine what is substance and what is superficiality. So when they say the beauty is skin deep, well, you know how deep that is. All you just have to do is wait a couple of decades and when you lose that youthful exterior, you'll see how beauty, superficial beauty lasts. The beauty comes from within, and that's part of your emission. That's part of your magnetical array. And that's what we all need is to really fulfill that, shall we say, that prophecy of bringing peace and prosperity to this planet. Thank you all for allowing me to continue to present, and We'll stay tuned for the next exciting episode because we are at a watershed moment in our history.
And of course, thank you again, Alex, for being here and putting a new program together every week for us in a way. Again, you're sharing your understanding and you're not enforcing it on anyone, but we can take what we can from your presentation. As I see it, this is the way I approach it. Anyone else? We look forward to your return next week and continue with this process. As he said, there's much, much more to go in this whole work, but we're just in the infant stages of it, whether it's the cosmic ray, UBSOS unit, or the game, or the rest of these structures. It's just in the beginning. So we're just here to bring it along for the future generations can enjoy a better life on this planet without the killing and destruction that we've gotten so used to, and that needs to be sort of taken out of our structure. But you can't do it all in one day, so continue to work with the knowledge of the foundation and some of the things that have been given to us to help improve our peace and enlightenment, let's say. And of course, now a new soul has sort of come into your life, with the soul or the energy of this planet being an integral part of us doing the transmutation process. If there's no further questions, I'll play the final disclaimer. Anyone? Again, this week's workshop has been moved to 6 p.m., I think it is. So the time will change. Calculate 6 p.m. Central European time. And of course, on the 29th of March, Central European time will change to Central European summertime, and everything will be back into sync, or the separation will be the same as it usually is for most parts of the year. If there's no further questions, I'll play the final disclaimer and the session will come to an end. But certainly the work will never end, as we understand our work is correct and forever. So thank you all for being here, carrying a very small portion of a very large structure in a way. But we're being instructed and sort of groomed in a way, or polished, as Mr. Keshe said. He's just here to do the roughing work, and this daughter of Mitra, this new behavior and this emotion is what we're going to fall in love with. So thank each and every one of the entities that have helped us get out of this sort of dilemma we've been in and have been in for thousands of years without being able to extricate us. And now help has arrived in a way that we can now move more into the universal community dimension, which is that dimension of energy. And again, I think it's right between your two ears, but it's for you to understand it the way you understand it. If there's no further questions, I'll play the final disclaimer and that will end the session. Anything else from anyone else? If that soul has been gnawing you to say something or something you want to bring, as Mr. Keshe said, the fear that we have is one of the biggest blockers for all of us. I wanted to play that question, but you can find it right after the announcements. But yes, this fear is a definite major block, as the creator doesn't experience fear. All right, thank you again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you in one of the future sessions, and we'll play again the beautiful disclaimer.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. we specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.